Cheering at pro wrestling shows in Japan is back, and 2023 is already shaping up to be a big year in the history of pro res. That's why you should listen to the Emerald Flow Show. From the Royal Road to the Green Mat, Paul and Gerard take you into the world of All Japan Pro Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Noah. Not only do we analyze events, but we examine business, who is getting over, what angles are working or not. Occasionally, we take a look at other Japanese promotions like DDT and Zero One. So if you're looking for more coverage of the world of Japanese wrestling, check out the Emerald Flow Show on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, available on all of your favorite podcast apps.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
What do you guys want to talk about?
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
You know what I want out of my wrestling? I want Bryan Danielson versus Yuji Nagata, and then a week later, Bryan Danielson versus Hechicero. Yes. Why? Because fuck you, that's why. That's what I want out of my wrestling.
Rich Crage.
The biggest wrestling story of all time, and these fans whoosh, right over their head. So they can go yeet, 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 and share Samantha Irvin TikTok videos with each other. That's what we created. Those are the fans now.
And we are live on the Flagship Podcast. I am Rich. He is Joe. Joe, what's happening? How are you? WrestleMania week is here.
Let's go. Let's get at it.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, I love the introduction there is from a couple of weeks ago. The clip that we have is a couple of weeks ago. You saying, I want Bryan Danielson versus Yuji Nagata and then Bryan Danielson versus Hechicero in back-to-back weeks because fuck you, that's why. And this week we get to talk about Bryan Danielson facing Blue Panther. Why? Fuck you, that's why.
Yeah.
They have a little more story. There's a little more story to Blue Panther, Bryan Danielson, but also fuck you. That's why.
Yeah,
Go fuck your ass. Go fuck your ass.
Yes, that's it. That's the story. Right. Go fuck your ass at the story.
Go fuck your ass, Blue Panther versus Bryan Danielson. That's why.
You want a story? Ask your mother to tuck you in. Okay, just go fuck your ass. You don't get it. You never get it. Go enjoy your 2 nights of WrestleMania. Man, we're off to a great start here. WrestleMania week.
Let's do it, baby. Come on. Yeah, we got a lot to get to. This week on the Flagship. I don't think there's time for pleasantries. I don't think there's time for any of this bullshit because, man, we have a lot to talk about. We have CMLL's huge Friday show that we talked about. We got to talk. We've watched all of it. The AEW versus CMLL main event, but we watched every single match on that entire show, so we're going to talk about that. We got a huge Triple Crown title change in All Japan Pro Wrestling, a one that has ramifications that can be felt throughout the Japanese wrestling world here in a little bit, possibly. We'll see. Jake Lee versus Dr. Wagner. El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr. Number 3 from Noah. So we got to talk about that show. Big time.
Can we settle on something to call this man? I'm not saying El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr. Every single time. Can we just call him Wagner?
Are we going to call him Wagner? Do you think he's like the default Wagner now? Are we good?
Can everyone just agree that they know what that means if we just call the guy Wagner? Can we call him Wagner 3?
Wagner
Will
3.
People know
Can
what
I call
that
him,
means.
If I call him Dr. Wagner, obviously that will lead to some confusion. But will it though? But will it if I say Dr. Wagner? Do you really believe that Dr. Wagner suddenly became the GHC champion and not El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr.? Wagner 3 isn't bad. I like that.
It's mouthy. I don't want to keep saying. I dread every time I have to say
El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr. Yeah, it's a lot.
The guy's a major league world champion. Okay, we're gonna have to talk about him a lot. We've been talking about him a lot. Can we just call him Wagner 3?
I'm fine with that. Do you want to shake on it? I'll shake on it if you want.
Wagner cubed.
Wagner 3. Let's go. Yeah, too cute. Let's call him just Wagner or Wagner 3.
Wagner or Wagner 3.
If we talk about Dr. Wagner, we will call him Dr. Wagner. Right?
Isn't Dr. Wagner dead?
Yes.
I don't think we're going to be talking about Dr. Wagner.
He's probably not going to come up that much.
Under any
circumstances. So I think we're good. And then Wagner Jr. will be Wagner Jr. Everybody knows about.
When is the last time Dr. Wagner Jr. worked a high-profile match?
That's what I was going to say. We don't bring his name up. We bring his name up about as much as we bring up his deceased father's name. So you're right. What is Dr. Wagner Jr.? Yeah, he died in like 2004, Dr. Wagner.
We didn't kill him, man, did we?
No. He died many years ago, in 2004, actually. So,
Dr. Wagner Jr. hasn't really, he's like working Mexican indies. He pops up in AAA now and then.
Yeah, I think from here there, Wagner. I think if we just call him Wagner.
Go Wagner.
Or Wagner III.
How about, if we're going to start, I think addressing him at the top by El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr. But then at that point, people know who we're talking about.
Then we move on. Yeah.
Once we're talking about the show, once we're talking about a match, once we're talking about his promotion, right? You can just go with Wagner, and I think people know what we're talking about.
Right. If Vince McMahon's not running this show, we don't have to continue to say the guy's full name every single time. We trust that you, the listening audience, the flagship listener, knows that after one time that we're talking about Noah, and then we talk about the Wagner that we're going to talk about, you'll know from there forward that we're talking about El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr., as opposed to any other of the Wagners.
Okay, well, you may continue setting up.
Okay, let's do that. So we're going to talk about that match from Noah. We also have New Japan Sakura Genesis. We're going to preview that. MJF has tweeted the first time since losing to Samoa Joe in December, and a lot of people are wondering, oh my God, what does it mean? What can it mean? Does it mean everything? Does it mean something? Does it mean nothing? We'll briefly touch on that. I have very little to say about that, but I thought I'd touch on it a little bit. CM Punk and Cody both appeared on Ariel Helwani's show. I did a detailed breakdown of CM Punk's appearance on the show during one of our flagship pluses that we did this week. We'll plug those a little bit later in the show as well. So we're not going to go into a ton of detail about that because, again, I went for an hour basically going line by line of everything that CM Punk said on that podcast earlier in the week on Flagship Plus. So I would just recommend going to listen to that. But Joe had a little bit to say, so I think we will touch on that a bit. But, man, a lot of the show is just going to be a big time preview for what's coming here this WrestleMania weekend. Extensive previews of both nights of WrestleMania, ROH Supercard of Honor, Bloodsport, a few of the other shows that have kind of caught our eye WrestleMania weekend. And we're really just going to kind of focus on that for a large portion of the show because, yeah, we're doing this on a Wednesday for that very reason. And we are going to cover, and we've talked about it last week and we talked about it before, we are going to cover WrestleMania weekend like nobody else is going to cover it. And you are going to get tons of audio over the next few days. That's why we're doing the show on a Wednesday so that we're free for tomorrow to watch the big shows tomorrow. We're going to do a podcast tomorrow night on the $5 tier at flagshippatreon.com. Friday night, you're going to get ROH Supercard of Honor Instant Reaction Live. Saturday, you're going to get WrestleMania XL Saturday Instant Reaction Live. And then Sunday, WrestleMania XL Sunday Instant Reaction Live also taking place. So in between there, you might get some other audio shows and additional coverage as well. So you're going to get an ungodly amount of audio from us over the next few days. But that is why we're doing the show on a Wednesday this week.
Show me another podcast on this earth that's going to preview all of these shows from WrestleMania weekend. That's going to talk about Noah, All Japan, New Japan, CMLL. Rich, I have a surprise topic for you that we're going to squeeze in today because you know what?
It's not a Ringer update, is it?
No.
Okay.
All of these shows weren't enough. I watched the 01 Peninsula Earthquake Charity Pro Wrestling show from the
Yasukuni Shrine. Isn't it the War Criminal Shrine or something?
From the I don't get
There's
involved
something.
in Japanese.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but it's something, right? It's something not that good, if I remember correctly.
Japanese politics are none of my business. I don't know if it's who knows.
You're just watching 01. You don't care where it is. It could be from the Fruit Market or Cork and Hall. You're just watching 01.
Rich, I don't care about American politics. I certainly don't care about Japanese politics. So I don't care where you stand on the shrine. I don't give a shit. But anyway, 01 held their yearly show there, the free show at this festival, and there was a big 01 World Heavyweight title change. I watched the business end of the show, so we're going to cover that too. We're going to cover that too.
I'm not kidding. If you were doing a blood pressure reading on me, I thought you were going to lead the show off, and you're like, you know what? Let's just get to that right now. So Akatoshi Saito, and I'm like, my God, somebody has listened to the show for the first time, and we just said, yeah, we're going to talk about Cody versus Roman and all that stuff. But let's start out with Chris Weiss versus Akatoshi Saito from the fucking War Criminal Shrine. You know what? Fuck it. Yeah. What other podcast this week is going to start with 01? Fuck it. Start with 01. Let's do it.
I don't know if it's a war criminal shrine.
There's something with it. I forget what it is.
Yeah, but see, you're wading into politics.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like there might be some people who think about our country and the places we have and how you can get two completely different opinions on You know what I mean?
Sure,
I'd be careful.
Sure.
That's all I'm saying.
I'm done. I'm done.
You know, I don't know what the fuck. Japanese politics. None of my damn business. I know there was a wrestling show there. That's all I know. Okay. Do you really want to do this now? Let's do it now.
Fuck it. Do it live. Do it
this
live.
Show.
Find another podcast this week. I don't think Cheap Heat is starting with 0-1 this week.
Yeah, we're opening up this show with 0-1. How about that? From March 31st, from the Yakasuni Shrine, the free show.
Is this available on Wrestle Universe? Is this available on Wrestle Universe as well? This is part of the real one that is now available. Great.
Correct. This was technically a real 0-1 show, so it's on Wrestle Universe. If people are interested why 0-1 is running two different branded shows these days, Flagship Plus. I covered it, what was that, yesterday?
Yep.
I've
lost track of what days are days anymore. Yeah, I think it was yesterday. I don't know.
Yeah, so that whole situation's covered, but this is real 0-1, meaning all the stars, Rich. All the stars are on this one. But yeah, we have a new 0-1 world champion, Akitoshi Saito, 58 years old, Pro Wrestling Noah star. Can you believe this is his first ever singles title in his entire career?
I found that really hard to believe. Yeah, I saw that fact the other day, and I was like, no way. And I went on, and I was like, oh, shit. Yeah, wow. Nothing. And I guess once you, like, it's one of those facts that when you hear it, you're like, no way. There's got to be it. And then you look, and you're like, oh, yeah, that kind of makes sense. I guess he was more of a, more of a tag guy. But yeah, I thought at least some point, some grime promotion would have put him a world title on him, or at one point he would have won one of the Noah titles or whatever. But yeah, it's interesting.
Well, his career started in the 1980s, and he's never won a singles belt, which is pretty incredible. But that all changed. He did beat Chris Weiss for the 0-1 world title. What they did was there was an 8-man tag, 0-1 versus Noah, in the semi-main event, which 0-1 won that match. It was Masato Tanaka, Takuya Sugawara, Yasu Kubota, and Satsuki Nagao, and they beat Go Shiozaki, Muhammad Yone, High 69, and Katoge. And Nagao, the young kid on the 0-1 side, he pinned Muhammad Yone to win the match. So we go into the main event, which is Chris Weiss defending against Saito, and all the Noah guys corner Saito with the exception of Yone because he was selling the fact that he just got beat in the semi-main event. I like that little touch.
That's yeah, so he wasn't like beaten. He was just like demoralized. So he's like, I'm not going out there. I can't.
Well, he's beaten too. He got hit with like a German suplex.
So maybe the next little sore, maybe got the ice pack on the neck or whatever. Okay, all right.
Right, so he wasn't out there with his boys, right? But the 0-1 guys were out there with Weiss. And look, it was an Akitoshi Saito singles match, which means, he's 58. He was never, exactly Kenta Kobashi in his prime.
Certainly not. No, certainly not.
He worked over the arm a little. They did a spot where Weiss clotheslined the ring post. And then from there, he worked his arm. Look, it was a very logically worked and sound pro wrestling match. I'll say that. And I'll say this too. In a week where I watched a ton of great pro wrestling, because I'm going to talk about a lot of great pro wrestling this week. There's a lot
of good stuff.
It's the kind of match where if you're in good spirits and you just watched a lot of good pro wrestling, you're like, yeah, I kind of dig this match. This is like the 19th best match I've seen this week, but it makes sense. It's logical. They told a nice little story. Whereas if you watch this match in a typical week of pro wrestling, you'd hate your life and you couldn't wait for it to be finished. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's something I always loved about 0-1 is it would never, because I would always watch 0-1 when like a bunch of other wrestling was going on. Like usually we'd watch it like on the New Year's show or whatever, or we'd watch the Fire Festival that's going on in the summer. So it'd, like all these other good things would be going on, and you'd like watch a bunch of other wrestling that week and be like, you know what? I'll watch the 0-1. And usually it's like the nice little, not the dessert, but it's something like that. You know what I mean? It's something where like you need to have a good meal before you watch 0-1. But then once you're watching 0-1, you're like, yeah, this is good too. You know what I mean? This is really good stuff. Whereas like if I was only watching 0-1, I'd probably be like, I don't know. But it's a nice little, not a palate cleanser, but kind of a palate enhancer in a way. 0-1. Sometimes it just lands and you're like, yeah, this is good too. This is another good bit of wrestling here.
Yeah, so it's the kind of match where I'd be real annoyed if all I watched was bad wrestling all week. But I'm in good spirits here.
Yeah,
I'm in
it's
good
a good week.
spirits.
Fun week.
So, when Saito hits that, variation of the sit out, not sit out, but like the sit out tombstone deal, whatever it is that he does. And, he puts the guy away and It got a nice pop from the crowd. There were a lot of Noah fans in this crowd because you could see a lot of Noah t-shirts that were very visible. And I don't think people were expecting a title change. So this got a nice little pop in this outdoor venue they were running with looked like banquet tables at ringside. And, it's outside, nice spring day, bunch of Noah fans there. And they got the surprise title change. And then the young kid who pinned Yone in the previous match, the Satsuki Nagao, he's the one who stepped up, and it looks like he'll be the next challenger. So once again, a nice little piece of booking, right? They could have easily done the chalk thing and went with Masato Tanaka or Sugawara or somebody like that. But no, they have this kid beat one of the Noah guys in the semi-main event, and then that sets up him challenging the Noah guy who just won their world title in the main event. So I don't know what they're going to do if they choose to put their title on that kid. It's probably not the worst idea. He gets to beat an established Noah name, a guy who Japanese wrestling fans have been watching wrestle since, like I said, the 1980s. So that'd be it's at the 0-1 level. That's a nice little win for a guy to win his world title if he does beat Saito. If he doesn't beat Saito, I don't think it's the worst idea for 0-1 to put their title on Saito, right?
Literally, what could they lose? It's 0-1.
Well, they have nothing to lose. He's in a higher profile spot than anybody on their roster is going to be because he's with a promotion that has real money backing, is on Wrestle Universe, has a good, decent presence, especially compared to 0-1 in Japan. So, he might not be a pushed guy in Noah, but, it's probably a better move than having your title on Chris Weiss, right? And if you're going to push this young kid, you're probably better off having him beat Saito than beat Chris Weiss, right? It's going to mean more if he beats a guy like that.
That's a better scalp. Yeah, Saito's a better scalp than Chris Weiss. I mean, nobody really cares about Chris Weiss.
Yeah, plus, you're working this interpromotional feud, and you get to beat a guy from Noah, and I get that it's not Kaito Kiyomiya, although Noah could probably easily be talked into that. Let's be honest.
Right, it probably wouldn't take too much convincing to get it.
Yeah, they probably could have politicked that one if they really wanted to. But it's So I don't know. I found the booking to be very sound and logical and simple but effective. And then we'll see how it plays out. But they've got my interest here. I want to see where they go with this. So in this packed week, this is what we open with.
Of course.
Where else are you going to get that?
Again, nowhere else. Yeah, a lot of people will talk about, WrestleMania. You're going to get a lot of WrestleMania previews everywhere else, a lot of NXT Stand and Deliver previews everywhere else. You're not getting a show that's going to cover as many things as we're going to cover this week, but then still start out with an off-the-board topic, and that off-the-board topic is 0-1. You know what I mean? Like,
Endeavor
got bought by Silver Lake, like a giant, private equity, thing that happened in WWE. Cody went on to the Ariel Helwani show and talked about a bunch of stuff. CM Punk, went on and scorched her with AEW for an hour on Ariel Helwani show. No, 0-1 from the Shrine. That's what you get.
People come here for the news of the world. Are Meltzer and Alvarez going to break down this title change?
No, and earnestly discuss who is going to beat Saito maybe for the title. Right. You know what I mean? Have an earnest discussion about it.
Are Pollock and Ting gonna break down 0-1 booking at any point this
Probably
week?
Not. Probably not.
Do you think any of the shows on Fightful are going to deep dive on what's going on in 0-1?
No, I don't think any of the overbooked shows. I think as overbooked as the overbooked shows get, I don't think they get overbooked enough that 0-1 gets on the list.
So where else can people get a nice little breakdown of 0-1 besides the Emerald Flow show right here on our network? But we're going to ignore that for the purposes of this bit.
For this bit. It is available on the Voice Wrestling Podcast Network Emerald Flow show. But for the bit, no, nowhere else. Nowhere else on Earth.
Right, nowhere else are you getting this. And half the people I just named aren't even aware this title change happened and couldn't even tell you who these people are. So that's how we take care of you, the listener. By burning the first. Yes, we are a half hour into the show on a very busy show on the 0-1 title change.
Yeah, to start off WrestleMania weekend, we're doing that. Yes. But you mentioned the names a little bit earlier, but real quickly, I wanted to touch on this. Ann Callis, who's Janelle Grant's lawyer. Obviously, Janelle Grant is the one suing Vince McMahon, WWE, and John Laurinaitis. She appeared on the Pollock and Thurston show on Post Wrestling. Neither of us have listened to the interview, so if people wanted us to break that down, we really can't. It's been a busy week. I have not heard that interview yet. I heard it went well. I heard that there was, some good information from that, but I just haven't had a chance to listen to it. So if people are expecting us to break that down in the show, I don't think that's going to happen. You also have not heard anything from it, correct?
Yeah, look, that interview was today, okay? Because, again, the live version of what we're doing here is on Wednesday as opposed to Thursday this week. I was just way too busy today watching a million shows, getting ready for this podcast. So I did not listen to it. So just in the interest of full disclosure, that's why normally we'd be all over this topic as a topic, because you have Ann Callis, who's the attorney for Janelle Grant, doing an interview with a wrestling outlet, which, with two guys who understand wrestling, which means, they're going to have better questions and more pertinent questions than what you're going to get if Ann Callis goes on some news show or
right.
something.
News
like
Nation.
that.
Yeah. News Nation is going to break the things down the way that there's an
way that those guys. Exactly. So I am going to listen to the interview, but just so people don't think that it's getting lost in the shuffle, I'm not going to break down an interview I didn't listen to. That I'm not going to do. I'm not going to be like one of these phonies. Like sometimes you have these guys, sometimes you get like these sports radio shows, or you get these guys where they'll interview someone who wrote a book without having read the book.
I have no idea what the book is about. Yeah,
it's like you can't, I didn't hear the interview. I don't know what you want me to say.
Yeah.
The one bit that I saw floating around Twitter that I thought was interesting is they asked her straight up if Paul Levesque is someone who was, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, was aware of the relationship. And Callis kind of wouldn't answer that directly. She said she's not going to answer that at this time, but she said, what I will say is that we do have witnesses lined up who are going to speak to the fact that there are other executives in the company who were privy to the relationship. So you can read into that all you would like. But again, I don't really want to comment it until I hear the interview myself.
Right,
I want to hear the questions. I want to hear her words. I want to hear how she answered the questions, especially when it comes to an interview of this magnitude. I'm not going to sit here and throw out a bunch of takes on something that I haven't heard myself based on Twitter aggregators putting out there, because we all know how that goes. Okay,
yeah.
So I'm not
right. Not advised. I would not advise.
I probably just fucked up the one bit that I passed along, but that was kind of the gist of it. She didn't want to confirm that Levesque knew anything, but she claims she has witnesses that are going to name other executives. So there you go. And at some point, probably not very long after, when we finish this, I have to immediately watch Dynamite, because then I immediately have to do the Thursday Dynamite review, which is going to be a wee hours version, the dulcet tones of late night Lanza. It's going to have to be, because I can't do it tomorrow, because tomorrow is the first day of Mania weekend, and obviously we are packed solid tomorrow. I have to start watching shows from basically the crack of dawn as soon as I wake up, 10 a.m. And then, then watch a couple shows in the afternoon there, do a review show in mid-afternoon, then watch a bunch of shows at night and do a show with you. So the Thursday Dynamite review has to be done at some point in the middle of the night tonight, which means I have to watch Dynamite tonight after we do this. So I don't know when I'm going to, but I definitely, at some point, I don't know when, it might take a couple days, I'm going to be locked into that, because I'm looking forward to see those guys interview Callis.
Absolutely. For sure. But yeah, just wanted to address that in case people were wondering, why aren't you talking about that? You said you guys were going to talk about the Vince McMahon thing the whole time. Well, we are, but yeah, not this week. Unfortunately, yeah, just way too busy. Too many things going on. As I say that, while to the right of me, I am watching Intergender Bonanza Cream Mania. So I guess I probably should be better using my time. But hey, it's WrestleMania weekend, so I am unfortunately fully locked in.
You know what? Intergender Cream Mania is
Bonanza.
Exactly the kind of content.
Intergender Bonanza Cream Mania.
Whatever. That's exactly the kind of content you watch with the volume off while you're doing a podcast. You can't watch that interview without full attention.
Correct.
So,
right. I can see the creamer Sean something or another come out with Cool Whip or so. What is he doing? He's got cream. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. This show is absolutely terrible, but. Also, there's been not that much intergender in this thing. I didn't want to watch it because it was going to be all intergender, and like 4 of the matches I just watched were not intergender. But whatever, who cares? WrestleMania weekend, baby, let's do it. So,
we should tell people the first 2 shows of WrestleMania weekend the two H2O shows, there are reviews up on the site right now, correct?
Right. VoicesWrestling.com. Griffin wrote reviews for H2O Monday Night Death Volume 5. That is up there, as well as the Hustle Cup 4. And I did watch the Hustle Cup 4, most of the Hustle Cup 4.
What'd you think of it? Quick thoughts on Hustle Cup 4.
Yeah. Joe, do you like scrambles?
No.
Okay, maybe avoid the Hustle Cup 4. It was a lot of scrambles because it was a show that they were doing a one-night tournament. So to get to the finals of the tournament, they had, 1, 2, 3 scramble matches to start the show off, and then had a main event that was what they called a triple threat match. That was the finals of the Hustle Cup. So, not good.
Who won the Hustle Cup?
The Hustle Cup winner is Kennedy Hardcastle. Yeah.
So I'm assuming all the stars were in this tournament.
Oh, yeah. You had Kennedy Hardcastle, Brian Neal, and Cody Manhorn were your final 3 for the Hustle Cup finals.
You know what, though? I got to tell you, I don't know who these people are, but these are obviously the regulars for this promotion. And I kind of appreciate that on a WrestleMania week show instead of just using the same 20 people that everybody else is going to use. So good for them for using their own roster and getting whatever little exposure and publicity these guys are going to get this week because H2O is running a million shows. I mean, they ran Wednesday, they ran Monday, Tuesday. Are they running tonight? I don't think
they're not running tonight, but their building is being used right now. This Cream-Mania show is happening in the H2O Wrestling Academy right now. And yeah, the H2O Wrestling Academy is going to have a busy week. They have shows going on literally all day, every day. For the rest of this weekend. But otherwise on the show, not much they really need to go watch. Colby Carino had a really, really fun match. He is weirdly evolving into Austin Aries in look and the way he wrestles and all that sort of stuff. In terms of the way he looks and wrestles, not necessarily in the all the other stuff in the wet pennies. I don't know anything about his proclivity for wet pennies or whatever.
Wet pennies.
Pennies. I have no idea about that aspect.
That's still an all-time tweet. I don't care what anybody says.
Wait, wasn't it? Because the pennies was P-E-N. We always ask this, we don't remember. It was P-E.
It's P-E-N-N-Y-S. He spelt it. And he basically said if your lady is eating Cheetos and processed food, when you taste her vagina, it's going to taste like wet pennies.
Yes. And the way and there was a tiger eating something. And that
there was a tiger with a third eye in the middle of his forehead.
like what?
Signifying the cunnilingus. It was very bizarre, but it was an amazing tweet. I've never experienced an alkaline tasting vagina in my life. I'm sure there might be some. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean the ladies a lot of Cheeto eating in my ladies' lives, so I don't know.
I mean, I've never experienced a wet penny tasting vagina, but I can imagine that a vagina could taste like wet pennies.
Sure, of course
I think that's possible. I but just a hilarious tweet. I mean, one of the best tweets. I mean, because you think about it today and you still chuckle.
Oh, of course. We've done this. We've done this exact wet penny segment at least 9 times on the show, and it never not makes it. I've never done it. And I'm like, all right, just move on, Joe. I just glee in my eyes thinking about the third-eyed tiger, eating something and it being like, it tastes like wet pennies or whatever.
You just picture Austin Aries saying that with a dead serious look on his face.
Yeah,
he's not trying to make you laugh. That's the thing. He's dead serious.
No, that was earnest. Yeah, that was completely earnest. But yeah, so he's kind of evolving into an Austin Aries type. So he came into this match. He's getting big too. He's getting built a little. He's getting older. Now he's got a mustache and a little bit of a goatee thing. So he comes out and he's facing this guy, Ryan Redfield, who I believe is a trainee of that school, very young wrestler or whatever. And he's like, you know what? This guy's not even worth my goddamn time. So you know what? I'm just going to work headlocks this entire match. I'm going to prove that I can beat this guy with just headlocks. And he did. He just did headlocks the entire match. There was 1 or 2 times where he'd throw the guy around or do something like that, but every single time it was a headlock. He did a suicide dive to the outside and then locked in a headlock. He didn't take the guy down. He just wrapped his arm around the guy and did a headlock. So it made it for it wasn't a great match in that sense, but it was a fun match in a sense. And then he just I forget what he did. He did some twisty pile driver type thing and then beat him with that. But otherwise he just used the headlock the entire match. So that wasn't bad. I did enjoy that. But elsewhere on the Hustle Cup, not much that I can recommend on the Hustle Cup. There was a terrible death match that Griffin, our reviewer, enjoyed. I thought was terrible, but because it's death match, I got no time for these juggalo-looking dudes hitting each other with bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to see this shit. So, yeah, so there you go. Knife boards. Okay, great. A knife board. Great. You're power slamming a guy into a knife board. I get it. I got it. Funny, hilarious.
No interest.
No care. Don't care. Yeah. You look like you smell. You look like a juggalo, and you're body slamming a guy on a knife board. Great. I'm going to see so many scrambles and so many juggalo-looking dudes body slam each other on knife boards this weekend. I'm good. Don't need it.
Juggalos catching strays left and right here.
These guys were literally juggalos. They came out to an ICP song.
Oh, they were juggalos.
They were juggalos. Right. Yeah.
No strays. They're catching direct shots.
They're direct shots for the juggalos. They were juggalos for sure. Yeah. But yeah. But there you go. That was Hustle Cup 4, and I did watch a little bit of the Labor of Love show earlier today. Now that was the Sean Henderson Wrestle John Labor of Love thing or whatever. They decided to do it from they were going to do the show outdoors, which I don't know about you, Joe.
Not in Philly. Not in Philly this week.
Yeah, right. And like, you lived in Jersey for many years. Would you have an outdoor, like, if you're gonna have a party at your house in New Jersey, early April? You going outside, or are you gonna plan that thing for inside?
Well, here's the other thing. It's pouring rain in Philly all week.
Yes.
I mean, the Reds and the Phillies played in a swamp last night, and today the game was scheduled for 1:00 Eastern, and they just threw the first pitch as we went on the air tonight. So, waiting for the rain to stop. So, yeah, it's a deluge in Philadelphia. Of course, they'll probably have clear, perfect skies by Saturday night for WrestleMania. But yeah, the weather has been atrocious in Philly all week. In fact, a friend of mine had his WrestleMania path of excellence, path of greatness all plotted out. He was going to go to All Caribbean Wrestling, and then he was going to do the Dean show, and then do the ETU versus Dragon Gate. Those are the 3 shows he selected to go to. And he already threw in the towel on the All Caribbean Wrestling show because the weather's so terrible and there's no parking at the venue. So he's got to figure out how to park on the street in South Philly, which is a nightmare, and then walk in the rain if there's no space. So he's like, fuck it, I'm not even going. So yes, the weather has been an issue in Philadelphia the last few days.
Right. So they decided to then put up a tent. So there's a tent out here, but it's still cold. It's not just raining. It's also fucking cold.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So the first half of the match, I'm sure they had some sort of heaters or something like that, but the guys that came out first wrestled in jackets for the first part of the show, which is just perfect. It looked fucking miserable there for a while, but I watched a little bit of that. Nothing that really stood out to me that I could really say on that show either. Yeah, it was kind of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So I missed Paul London and Mike Bailey. I know that they had a match early in the night. I did not watch that one, but I did watch the main event was Weber Hatfield versus Cheeseburger, and that was pretty damn good. And they worked their ass off. And Colby Carino faced Clint Margera and had a pretty solid match as well. So Colby has.
This is the Labor of Love show.
This is the Labor of Love show. So far, Colby Carino would be my number one guy.
So Colby Carino is the leader in the clubhouse right now.
I would say, yeah.
Now, this would be the equivalent of like Thursday at the Masters. We got a long way to go.
Oh, we got a long way to go. But you know what? Hey, he's still number one. Still leader in the clubhouse. Yep.
Look, he's -7 on the first day.
He turned in that scorecard, and that's all that matters, man. His name's at the top of that list.
So this is a local Philly promotion. I could not think of the promoter's name last week. It's Billy Avery. Is the name of the promoter of Labor of Love. I could not think of that last week, and it bothered me all week. You ever do one of these shows and you think of something you couldn't think of after the show's over, and then you can't sleep that night, and you're like, God damn it.
All the fucking time. Yes.
Right. So
I
all
know
week I've been
so much. At 2 a.m. I wake up and I sweat, and I'm like, oh, no.
People think we're joking.
No, I sometimes go on to Discord and be like, just so everybody knows what I meant to say was. And it's like, nobody cares. Yeah.
So I couldn't think of this guy's name last week because you kept saying the other guy, Sean Henderson or whatever.
Yeah. It's like, not Sean Henderson.
Yeah. I'm like, no, there's another guy. And then I just let it go because it was bad radio. But I thought of it, and then I haven't been able to sleep all week. So just so everyone knows, the promoter of the Labor of Love promotion in Philadelphia is Billy Avery.
Thank you.
I'm sure every listener has been waiting all week for us to clear that up.
Yeah, we finally cleared that up. So there you go. Nothing from that show.
That was your short review of the shows that you've seen.
Yeah. Cheeseburger, Weber Hatfield, enjoyed that. Colby Carino, Clint Margera, enjoyed that. Colby Carino versus Bill Redfield or Feld, I think, enjoyed that. I'm not watching Creamania with the sound on. I don't know if it's a drastically different show with the sound on, but nothing I can recommend from Intergender Bonanza Creamania so far. So there you go. That is what I've seen so far. Thankfully, the real shows start in earnest tomorrow, and we will be covering all of those on Flagship Plus throughout the week. We'll talk about that a little bit more.
Do you think Cheap Pete with Dopey Pete and Stacked Eye Greg are reviewing all these shows this week?
No. Oh, God, no. They didn't watch Sean Henderson and Labor of Love present Wrestle John. No. Zero chance they watched that.
All right, just checking. I just wonder how many other podcasts out there are doing what we do here.
Creammania? No, you're not going to get Creammania coverage anywhere else. In addition to WrestleMania, in addition to NXT, in addition to all that other stuff. So let's get into it. Let's actually talk about WrestleMania here as we finally get to WrestleMania weekend. Obviously, the big show is going to happen Saturday and Sunday. Instant reaction lives for both of those shows immediately following them. Some of our biggest shows of the year, particularly last year's Sunday show when Roman beat Cody. That was a hell of a show, one of our all-time great shows. I think we just started on with a minute of us laughing to start the show. So who knows what they have in store for us this year, but we'll have instant reactions both of those nights immediately following the shows. And we'll start off with Saturday. Obviously, the main event of Saturday, Cody and Seth versus the Bloodline, Roman Reigns and The Rock. There's also some added stipulations there that if Cody and Seth win, that the Bloodline, no member of the Bloodline, which has been specifically said, so that gives you, I guess, some sort of potential, what's going on here, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So if Cody and Seth win, no member of the Bloodline can interfere or be at ringside or whatever. And if the Bloodline wins, then the match is going to be fought under Bloodline rules if Roman and The Rock defeat Cody and Seth. So if you're fantasy booking, Joe, if you're putting the booker hat on, what do you got going here for Seth and Cody versus the Bloodline?
I don't know. Look, we talked about it last week. The bottom line is this: no matter what way they go with the tag, that entire building the next night is going to be waiting around for The Rock to get involved in the main event. End of story. So if they don't want to kill all the heat for their main event, because The Rock, as we laid out last week, is so clearly the biggest star on these shows, they're better off just going the route where he's allowed to be out there instead of having everybody waiting around wondering if he's going to find a way to come out if he's banned from ringside. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So, but to me, it doesn't matter. I mean, look, they're going to do some kind of angle in the tag, and could that be Seth turning on Cody to set up a Seth Cody program after Cody wins the title? Sure. Could that be The Rock and Roman being at odds and doing a split on night one to set something up on night two, or to set up a Rock Roman match after Cody beats Roman? Then, to keep Roman busy, he could look. This is just something I'm thinking of on the fly. But you could have, Seth turn on Cody right on night one, and then have Cody win the title on night two because The Rock and Roman can't get along, and then you have two programs coming out of it. You have Seth versus Cody for, however many fucking of their versions of the world title you want to have involved with. And then you have Rock versus Roman. You could do that. It sure looks like we're headed towards Cody versus Rock. I mean, that's the as we discussed last week, the strongest built match in the company is Cody versus Rock. So I'm sure that's when all the dust settles here over the 2-night WrestleMania is whatever they do is going to lead us to Cody versus Rock before The Rock has to go away and start making movies again or heal all the muscles he's going to tear this weekend. So I don't know. I'm interested in how they book the tag match. I'm curious, but I don't really have a prediction because I think the main event is going to be loaded with a bunch of fucking horse shit anyway, no matter what happens in the tag.
Yeah, someone's turning on somebody. Someone's not going to be able to coexist with somebody. I don't know who it is. Like you said, you laid out the scenario where nobody can coexist with anybody. That's a distinct possibility. It could simply be that, The Rock and Roman can't coexist. So then, that's how, but the problem is, you're not going to have. Here's where I'm at, though, with that. Let's assume that Cody is winning on Sunday, right? Do you want to assume that, or what? Maybe let's start there. Let's start there, and then we can kind of work our way back to Saturday. What do we think is happening? How does WrestleMania end on Sunday? How do we start off our Instant Reaction Live on Sunday? Is it with Cody, quote unquote, finishing the story? Which, by the way, I fucking cannot wait for this guy to finish the story so we can stop saying finish the story. Can I actually not say finish the story anymore? Can we say something else moving forward forever?
I'm so tired of hearing about finish the dopey story.
Great. Cody wins. Cody wins the title at WrestleMania.
Oh, I listen again. I didn't listen to this yet because there's so much to listen to, but I think Ariel Helwani was on with Bill Simmons previewing WrestleMania. Let me double check that because I have a quote for you that's going to drive you insane that I saw from Ariel Helwani, and think it was from I think it was from the Simmons show, but it may have been from one of the other million interviews he did.
I already hate it.
I'm almost positive. Yeah, Simmons had Schumacher and Helwani on. And I can't confirm this because I haven't listened yet. But someone told me that the following came out of Helwani's mouth during that WrestleMania preview.
Okay.
That fans were dying for Dusty Rhodes to win the WWF title, and he never did.
Oh.
Ariel Helwani said that. Allegedly.
When
were fans dying for this?
Yes.
That's as good a guess as you can make. I have no fucking clue because it never happened.
Fans were dying for Dusty. Are we talking Sapphire Dusty? Or are we talking like WWF Dusty? What are we?
It's like we said when Cody originally said that shit. I gotta finish the story for my father. I gotta win the title my father never won.
Stop.
Dusty Rhodes winning the WWF title was never a fucking thing historically. He had like one match in MSG, maybe two against Graham, right? He had the 2
That's
month program.
Yeah. I don't know that they were really clamoring. Anybody was super clamoring for him to win those titles.
No, this was never a thing. This was never a thing. And you got Ariel Helwani out here who's proven himself to be nothing but a stooge for this company. I mean, let's be honest. Let's call it like it is. Okay.
Oh, the mask is as off as it could possibly be off at this point. But
yeah, guy's a clown. He doesn't know anything. He's buddies with Nick Khan. He does whatever. Nick Khan's his little puppet master. That's what Helwani is. Okay. But to say that, I mean,
it's pretty egregious. Yeah. So I got the matches here for you. All the matches when everybody was clamoring. We're addressing that. Everybody was clamoring for Dusty to win the title. So he September 26, 1977, he defeated Superstar Billy Graham by countout. They came back the next month, MSG. These are all or the first two are at Madison Square Garden. They had a Texas death match. Superstar Billy Graham defeated Dusty Rhodes 9 minutes and 12 seconds. Now, in 1977, were those fans clamoring, dying for Dusty Rhodes to win the WWF heavyweight title? I don't know. I was 10 years away from being born, but I don't think so. I don't think they were exactly...
No. Those are the two. I just watched those matches like 6 months ago. I'm pretty sure they're both on WWE, on Peacock. If they're not, I watched them on YouTube. I can't remember.
And the fans weren't rioting for Dusty to finish the story?
It was a nice little 1 month program. Of one of fucking dozens from that era of a guy coming into the territory for a month, working a couple MSGs, and then skedaddling right back to fucking Florida.
Right.
Okay, is what that. Okay, this wasn't like a thing in real time.
Oh, but they brought it back in 1978 though. He had 2 more back-to-back nights. At the Capitol Center in Landover, Maryland, he defeated Superstar Billy Graham by referee's decision, but for some reason did not win the title. And then 2 days later at Boston Garden, he defeated Superstar Billy Graham by referee's decision, but for some reason didn't win the title. So
those aren't the canon, though. That's not what Cody talks about.
Right. He talks about the MSG. He talks about the MSG shows.
Right. Now, let me make it clear. Helwani isn't talking about any of them.
No, he is talking about Sapphire Dusty Rhodes and being like, oh, yeah, we all wanted Dusty. If he even has that context. No, Ariel Helwani knows nothing. Okay, so he's not referencing any of these matches. Not the MSG matches, not these random, other house shows that you're talking about. But the ones that Cody was referencing are clearly the 2-match series in MSG. Okay? But this was never a thing. This was never discussed anywhere that Dusty was a potential WWF World Champion until Cody made it part of this story. Okay? And I knocked that at the time. I buried Cody right here on this audio, and I'm sure he loses sleep at night knowing that I buried it. But I buried Cody's his first Raw promo where he brought that up. Like, what is he talking about? This isn't a real thing. This Dusty dying to win this. Dusty never cared about winning that title. Dusty didn't want to win the NWA title. Every time he won he lost it in 10 minutes or the next day or the next week because he wanted to do chasing again. He's way better at chasing, and he doesn't need the fucking title.
Dusty was a 3-time NWA World Champion when that title meant more than the WWF title to him and his, at least during the first, one of those reigns. And it's like, and like you said, Dusty knew the money was in the chase, which is why all his title reigns were so short. So this idea that, Cody just made this up for the benefit of the story, which is fine. That's pro wrestling. I get it. But here is what you see happens. You have people like Ariel Helwani who know nothing. He knows absolutely nothing. And he's out here repeating that this has been, for decades, fans clamored for Dusty Rhodes to win that title when that was never a thing. That was never something that people desired, people talked about, what was written about, and nothing. No one considered him a WWF guy because he would come in for random house shows now. It's total nonsense. Now, I'm going to look like a real jerk if I go listen to that Simmons pod and he never really said that. But it made for good radio because someone told me he said that.
So we're going to go with it. Yeah, we're going to go with it.
It's fucking preposterous. But yeah, no, look, to answer your question, do I think Cody will win? I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. I have no investment in it. I think for the benefit of this show, I hope he loses because our audience will eat that up.
Oh, that'll be a great instant reaction live if he loses again. I can't wait.
We'll have better audio if he loses. Okay. And I want to do good audio. I want to have good shows. And, I want our audience to enjoy our shows. But I don't know because look, does it really matter? Cody versus Rock is going to be a huge money match, whether the title's involved or not. And the fact is you may not want the title involved if the idea is it's going to be more than one match. Cause then, but I guess you can, look, I was going to say you can't put your title on Rock and have him go away, but Roman's never around.
Roman's never around. So yeah, you're right.
So yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. All I know is the strongest built match and the biggest match in the company right now is Cody versus Rock. It's not even close. It has inadvertently sucked a lot of the interest out of Cody Roman. I don't care what anybody says. People are more excited about Cody Rock now than they are about Cody and Roman. And night of, I'm sure they'll be excited about. But again, they'll be waiting to see what The Rock has to do with that match. And I'm just curious to see how it all plays out. I'm interested in it. I'm for sure interested in both of the matches because I don't really know how they're gonna book them. I don't know how they're gonna play out, and I'm curious to see what they do. And I'm gonna be curious to see what kind of reactions Roman gets, particularly when The Rock is out there, both for the tag and then eventually on Sunday night. But I think we kind of dissected this one frontwards and backwards last week.
Absolutely.
I don't have much more to add.
No, I really don't either. And I'm just going to kind of, I think, sit back and just see what the fuck happens and how, to react to it. But I guess my question was for the night one thing is let's assume that Cody does win, defeats Roman Reigns. I don't think The Rock's going to take a pinfall, and I don't think Roman Reigns is going to take a pinfall there. So I feel like we're probably going to get Cody and Seth losing in that night one, but then who do you have lose? Do you have Cody lose to kind of do he can lose on this night, or are we just going to throw this match out? Is it possible that this match just gets thrown out? They don't want anybody to lose so that nobody looks, because Seth losing looks bad. God, and you can't afford to have Seth look any worse than he's already looked going into,
Cody's going to lose.
Cody's going to eat the 1, 2, 3, you think?
Yeah, well, and then Cody loses, that tells you he's winning the next night. He's not going to lose both nights.
Yeah, because I don't think you're going to
kind of in a tricky spot there.
Exactly, and that's kind of what my point was, is that I don't know what they're going to do in that night one thing to kind of build up to night two. I honestly don't care that much. I just kind of want to. Like you said, I want the worst possible case scenario because that scenario is the best possible for us. Like, The Rock pinning Cody on night one and then like Roman pinning him on night two or whatever. It's like perfect. You know what I mean? Or like, Roman pinning Seth on night one and then Roman pinning Cody on night two or whatever. Like that shit would be perfect. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I just know it's going to be, no matter what, it's going to be fun to dissect it on Saturday and Sunday and kind of figure it out.
Here's your finish. I don't know if you saw this, Rich. They did another one of their little Easter eggs.
Oh, I love the Easter eggs. Yes.
So Paul Heyman, in a totally unrelated backstage segment, was in the background of the segment talking to Drew McIntyre 2 weeks ago on one of their fucking shows. So Drew is going to come down and cost Seth the match, is what's going to happen. Drew is going to come down and attack Seth. That's how they lose. You see, and that'll give Seth an out. That's how you have Seth eat a pin on night one without looking bad going into the Drew match, because now Seth has all the more reason to want to beat Drew on night two, because they It was like some segment with Otis or something. I don't know who it was. But like in the background, Heyman and McIntyre were there, complete with the subtlety.
Right.
Yeah, it had to be.
Yeah, it's lit. It's obvious that they're back there. Yeah.
You may as well put a fucking spotlight on them. It was like they wanted you to notice that Heyman was, and McIntyre's like rubbing his chin as Heyman's talking.
Contemplating.
So it's like, yeah. So I think that's maybe how you get out of this the thing about it is if Cody is going to win, it doesn't matter if you tip it off to the audience because that's what they want anyway. They want nothing more than Cody to finish this story so they can all go crazy. So if you do want to beat Cody on night 1, even though that tips off night 2, so what?
That's fine.
Sometimes the obvious finish is the right finish and you just do it, right? But I think Drew, based on that little Easter egg deal, is going to cost Seth and Cody the match, and that's how they get out of beating anybody on night 1.
There you go. I thank you for that breakdown. I missed that Easter egg, so I'm glad that's.
Well, listen, that must have been the one Raw this year you haven't seen.
I know. I'm usually locked into Monday Night Raw as War every single week, so yeah, I must have missed that one segment. Maybe that's that's probably what happened. I was heating up a hot pocket or something, so I didn't miss a minute of Raw, and then I might have missed the little segment there. Thinking, oh, it's a random Otis segment, I can miss this, but you can't miss a second of WWE Raw, or else you're going to miss Easter eggs like that. So
we've done a ton on these 2 matches. Let's do the rest of these cards.
Well, Joe, I'm going to be honest. I think the rest of the show fucking sucks. Like both nights.
They're not great. They're
not great. They don't look great. And I know that's like a hot button topic you guys just hate WWE. I don't think these matches are very good. They don't sound very great. I mean, the rest of Saturday is Dominic Mysterio and Santos Escobar versus Dragon Lee and Rey Mysterio. I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck about that match.
Yeah, look, they've been building it for a while. It's not like it's out of nowhere, and it's Dom and Ray on opposite sides, and I don't know. It's an undercard WrestleMania match. The thing with Dom is this, and I wish it was me that would have thought of this, but it was Dave Meltzer, and I have to give him credit. The thing with Dom and the heat that he gets, no matter where you stand on it, is it fabricated? Is it just a bit that the fans are participating in? Is it real? Here's the bottom line. The company themselves don't think it's real heat, because if the company thought Dom was getting that level of real heat, he'd be in the main events. That's it. The conversation doesn't need to go any further. If someone had that level of real heat, they're one of the most over heels in the history of the business, and they'd be main event shows. And that's really all there is to say about it. What's he doing on WrestleMania Saturday? He's probably jerking the curtain. So that kind of should end all these debates about, whether Dom's heat, is it real? Is it fake? It's a nice little gimmick in the middle of the card. That's what Dom is. That's all.
We have Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, and Naomi versus Damage Control. So the ongoing, never-ending Bianca Belair versus Damage Control feud continues here. Asuka, Dakota Kai, and Kairi Sane. We're adding Jade Cargill and we're adding Naomi to there. The Jade Cargill thing is interesting, and at least that's a match that I am interested to see what she does in the spot. But again, they don't fully trust her to do an actual match, so she's going to be, the sixth wheel in a match, and everybody else that she's in there with is going to be, doing a lot of the work for her. But it's like, I don't know. I guess it's a good way to you got to rip that Band-Aid off sometime with Jade Cargill. You can't just keep her walking out of limos and in Royal Rumbles. You got to do something. So it's probably the best way to do it. And I would expect that at the end of this, you need her standing tall, and she needs to be a big part of this match if she's going to be a big part of what you guys are doing moving forward. So I'd imagine that Belair, Cargill, and Naomi get this win over, basically the job squad of Damage Control. And they're so fucking ice cold. The Asuka, Dakota Kai, Kairi Sane aspect of Damage Control. The whole stable is, to be honest. But
you're waiting around to see what happens with Bayley.
Right.
It's the never-ending Bianca Belair feud with Damage Control has to be one of the least interesting things this company has done in years.
And was it Damage Control? It was so damaging to Bianca Belair, considering where she was last year at this time to where she is now.
Yeah. And in terms of high-profile programs, it's just so not interesting, and it's gone on forever. And it's damaged Bianca Belair. And now it's going to be a vehicle to complete the Bayley face turn. So it won't even be about Bianca, really. And I think you nailed it. It's more protection of Jade. And they've had her in one match where she did very carefully planned out spots in the Royal Rumble designed to make her look good, and it did. And it'll be the same here. This is not going to be a Dragon Gate 6-man tag. This is going to be Jade Cargill has carefully planned spots to do with great workers, Kairi Sane, Dakota Kai, and Asuka, who are going to bend over backwards to make sure she looks great. And those three are capable. We all know how good they are. Okay? And that's going to be that. You know, and again, this isn't the training. This is still training wheels on for Jade Cargill. They're not sending her out there for 25 minutes to have a main event singles match on a big time show. She's out there. She's going to do a couple very controlled spots because they don't trust her.
She's going to flex, do a power bomb, do a choke slam, flex. Like, yeah, they. What this tells me is they still have absolutely zero trust in her. Like, zero trust.
Yeah, exactly. No doubt about it. The training wheels are still on, and people are going to go crazy. Like, she's the biggest star in the history of the fucking business, and they're going to overrate how much of a star she comes across as, like they always do. And you know, she'll look good, and I'm not saying she's not. She's obviously very charismatic, but people go overboard with it. I mean, gee, she's not the second coming of fucking Luthez. I mean, let's take it easy. And you know, it is what it is. Naomi has looked like shit since she's come back. She has looked terrible.
No,
I don't know what her deal is.
She's washed, or I don't know what it is, but yeah, she looks terrible. She's like completely.
And now she just
she's like completely not even. She was like replacement level before, and now she's like sub replacement level. You know what I mean? She's bad. Yeah, she's not very good anymore.
There was always a spark there with her though, and a good burst, and that's gone. That's the thing. Like what she did have is gone. Like it's just she's just total non-entity from an athletic standpoint now, and you know, so we'll see. I'm sure that'll involve Bayley in some form, but anyway, we got to move on.
Yep. We'll move on to a match that I'm sure somebody listening, maybe not listening to this show, but somebody somewhere is going to love this match and enjoy it and is anticipating it. I think I'm good. It is the tag team title 6-pack ladder match. The Judgment Day, Damian Priest and Finn Balor versus Austin Theory and Grayson Waller versus Awesome Truth versus DIY versus the New Day versus the New Catch Republic, which is Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. I'm good on ladder matches. I never need to see a ladder match ever again. I'm not particularly fond of a lot of the teams that are in this match. That I don't think there's a lot of high level. Like when I think of like a good ladder match, a lot of these guys are not the guys that I think of. Like, can they go out there and have a pretty good match? Probably, but this is just going to be a bunch of shit and a bunch of things and the 1,000 ladders. And I don't know. I have next to no interest in this. Do you care about a 6-pack ladder match with a bunch of teams?
This is where shoehorning everybody onto the show, and I don't have any thoughts whatsoever.
Jimmy Uso versus Jey Uso. Yeet versus no yeet. This is a big spot for these guys. And we talked about it, you know, at SummerSlam. Jay kind of shit the bed in that main event. It's another big time spot for these guys. Obviously, the crowd's going to be really, really hot at the beginning of this. They're going to be yeeting and no yeeting and going crazy and all that sort of stuff. But once that bell rings, man, this is an opportunity for them to really shine. And I don't know. Jay has not looked impressive. Jimmy has not really looked impressive in singles matches. So I think a lot of people are anticipating this being really, really, really good, and I think they might need to temper the expectations or maybe go in with less, you know, confidence that it's going to be a great match, because I don't know if it's going to be a great match. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it could be a very annoying match for us, but a match that pleases the WWE fan base
greatly.
So, or, you know, they could have a great match. I don't know, but I don't really have much else to add. I think you said it all. I think the big crowd in Philly is going to enjoy saying yeets over and over. And, you know, the baby face should probably just go over, right?
I think that, yeah, don't overcomplicate it here. I think,
you know, the right hand man or nobody's bitch, whichever one he is, he should just go over.
Switched. Yeah, they've switched multiple times, I think, at this point.
You know, Jay should go over is the point. Jay is the good guy here.
Yeet should go over. Yeet should beat no yeet.
Yeah. Main event Jay working 6th from the top here should go over. That's what you should do, and just make everybody happy. Maybe Solo Sikoa gets involved. Solo Sikoa, who, by the way, since he beat John Cena, is what, 0-35 or something?
I believe it was 0-35. I believe it is now 0-36. But yes.
Yeah, most of that's house shows, but still, like, that's incredible. Like, you talk about a loss of momentum. You know, you have John Cena graciously put this guy over. He don't have to do that. Cena's a good guy. He'll put anybody. He likes the company. He'll put people over. He puts this kid over, right? And that's like worth something. That's definitely worth something if you want it to be. And they don't follow it up with anything. In fact, the guy hasn't won a match since. I mean, you know, if you're going to throw roses at the feet of Paul Levesque, that's...
He's got to eat that one. Yeah, he's got to eat that one.
This game. If another booker who shall remain nameless pulled a move like that, you think we'd never hear about it? I mean, let's be real here.
Yeah, if Danny Garcia beat somebody and then
lost 36 straight matches,
right?
I'm just, you know, I mean, and rightfully so. I mean,
hypothetical, or somebody like Danny Garcia. That's just a name I threw out. Yeah, in this hypothetical situation that we're talking about. Yeah, insert young wrestler here. Yes.
You know, beats some fucking icon, right? And then loses 36 straight matches. I mean, you know, it's malpractice is what it is. Let's call it what it is. It was here's what it was. You either didn't follow up on plans that you had, and that's a mistake because you had a chance to really get something going with the guy after he beat Cena, or you had nothing planned and you just wasted somebody beating Cena. And every time you beat somebody like Cena, it means less and less the next time someone else does it. So you just burn this one, and now it doesn't mean anything. You know, a lot of times when I break down these WWE, I just feel gross. Like, whatever. What the fuck does it matter?
It doesn't matter. Yeah, who cares?
Yeah. Their fans accept
Silver
anything.
Lake just bought, Endeavor for bought the remaining shares of Endeavor. They're a private equity content factory. Now, who fucking cares? Yeah, whatever. Eat at Arby's. Who cares? I appreciate you earnestly trying to break down Solo Sikoa, but
it's my instincts, man. That's what we do.
You can't shut it off. I know. I get it.
You know, we just broke down the 0-1 fucking main event scene.
Right.
It's what we do. It's why people come here, you know? It's just, and look, when I say everything's over and it doesn't matter, because with their fan base, everything's so over, like, that's a great place to be if you're a booker and you're a wrestling
of course.
Promotion.
Yeah, you want to be there.
People used to say, oh, well, AEW fans just cheer everything.
Good.
Yeah, well, good.
I want that.
That's by design. That's like, you know, like when AEW was super hot and like everything was over. That's where WWE is right now. Anything they do is over. Do you want proof of that? I was going to save this for later. Did you know that shit-ass NXT show, Stand and Deliver, is going to have 14,000 people?
Whoa, my God. 14,000 people?
14. Well, maybe it's over 13,000. That's a fact. So I'm saying by showtime, they might have, 14,000 people.
For fucking Tony D'Angelo, Ilya Dragunov, and Carmelo versus Trick. Unbelievable.
And that's my point. We all know that Carmelo Hayes versus Trick Williams is not a match that is drawing 14,000 people. We know that. The point here is it's WrestleMania weekend, and the company, everything is gold now. Everything with this company is over with their fan base now, and they're going to go to this show. Now, that just demonstrates the point. Now, look, the WrestleMania weekend 100% is helping with that. Vengeance Day in Tennessee drew 3,900 fans. Deadline in Connecticut drew 5,500 fans. No Mercy in Bakersfield, California drew 4,900 fans. So you get the idea. Okay. That's why I say the lineup did not draw 14,000 fans this weekend. WWE being super hot and everything they do being over, and it being WrestleMania weekend, where you can even get an NXT show that doesn't have any draws on it and put 14,000 people in the building, which is why ultimately it doesn't matter that they didn't follow up with Solo Sikoa. Even though it's bad storytelling from a narrative standpoint, they're going to get away with it. If they want to push Solo Sikoa starting Monday, that motherfucker's going to be over.
Right. He'll beat somebody on Raw, and then it all will be forgiven, and he'll have a big beatdown and do the spike to somebody. He could do the spike to Cody immediately on Monday, and he'd be over as a motherfucker and main eventing a pay-per-view,
right. So,
in a month's
that's
time.
The point. That's how I'm tying in the NXT attendance to this. So that it ultimately, the company's so over that it doesn't matter. But anyway, we need to move on.
Otherwise, on Saturday, you have Gunther versus Sami Zayn. Now, this is a match I am actually looking forward to. Have that circled as potentially the best match of the entire WrestleMania weekend in terms of like WWE's output. Gunther and Sami Zayn. I love Gunther in WWE. I think that they've done a great job with him. No complaints from me. You know, we complain about a lot of things about WWE on this show. Zero complaints from me about Gunther and Sami Zayn. I mean, that's the type of guy that can do a match with a guy like a Gunther and make it look like $1 million too. He's not quite what he was. He's not peak, El Generico in terms of selling and that sort of stuff, but he's still pretty damn good. And I have no doubt in my mind that these guys are going to go out there and have just a phenomenal match.
Yeah, they absolutely can go out there and have a great match. I think that what's interesting is when Sami Zayn won the gauntlet deal or tournament, whatever it was, the fans rejected that because they wanted Gable. And so what they've done here is they've tied Gable into the storyline. Like he's training Sami Zayn for the match so that Zayn doesn't walk into that building and get booed out of the place. So that's an interesting misread by, once again, Paul Levesque, who everyone thinks is this impeccable booker.
Oh, he's not Vince McMahon, though, Joe, so he's good.
I mean, they misread that one completely because Sami Zayn, who arguably at one point last year was the most popular wrestler on the roster for a couple months,
this time last February, almost exactly a year ago.
Through the winter of 2022 and the first couple months of 2023, in terms of crowd reactions, at least, right there neck and neck with Cody, if not more popular than Cody for live during the Bloodline stuff. And then you put him in the tag team with Kevin Owens and they get their big moment at WrestleMania and you inexplicably split the team up. That was a hot team, right? And now he's fallen so far that when you push him and give him a match against this undefeated, monster record-setting Intercontinental champion, the fans reject it because they wanted a comedy wrestler in the spot. I mean, people say we unfairly pick on this company, but Rich, that's egregious. How does that happen?
That's an L.
That's a giant L, to the point where you got to put the comedy wrestler into the program to save the thing. That's a mess. So when you really peel back the layers with a lot of the things that Levesque books, look, a company being hot and can cover up a lot of fucking warts with your booking because the stuff at the top is so hot. And there's just a lot of examples when you look at these cards.
Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch is the women's world title match on Saturday. Now, last year, obviously, Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair probably stole the weekend for WWE. Obviously, you had Roman and Cody on night two, but I think arguably the best match out of the weekend from WWE was Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair. They're going to try to run that back again here with Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch. And I mean, speaking of kind of booking malpractice, I think if we look at the last year of Rhea Ripley, I mean, arguably, she is a quote unquote top star in that company, but really for nothing of her own doing and nothing of the booking. I mean, she's had a bunch of matches that you don't even remember, a bunch of title defenses that are just not memorable whatsoever. She's been kind of the lackey in the Judgment Day, or not necessarily the lackey in the Judgment Day, but she's kind of like the leader of it, the de facto leader of it.
She's the leader.
But it's also like, you know what I mean? Like, it's also weird too, where this title feels like a non-factor. It does not feel like an important title, even though that person's held it now for a year. And that person who is a star, it's one of these weird things where she's a star, she's the leader of this faction, but she feels so much detached from the title and feels like more of she's there to be the quote unquote leader of the Judgment Day as opposed to, the top woman in the company. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think the reason that she's so over is, well, part of the reason she's so over is, you mentioned something earlier. You don't really remember her matches outside of the Charlotte match from last year. All she does, she wins squash matches. Even on pay-per-view, she's generally squashing people. Whether it's Zelina Vega in Puerto Rico or whether it's
Zoe Stark. There
was another one in there. And then there was, the Nia Jax match wasn't a squash, but it was pretty definitive. And that's just old school pro wrestling. That's what gets people over. When they just kick people's asses and win. She's not out there holding the tights. She's not using, brass knuckles. She's not having people run in and help her win. She's just speeding people. And it fits her persona. And she's gotten over. And I've seen some people I've seen some people grumbling that maybe this should have been the main event.
What?
Look, I get it. Becky Lynch is a big star. I get it. Rhea Ripley is a star.
Come on.
The Rock is on these shows.
The Rock. What?
I'm sorry. That's the end of the argument. It's the end of the argument. It's The Rock. It's Dwayne Johnson, one of the biggest stars on this planet. And he's only in one match. And they couldn't put it on night 2. He's main eventing night 1. End of story. So just to get that out of the way, this preposterous notion that this should, no, it's The Rock. Now, if The Rock wasn't around, all right.
Sure.
I'll listen to you. I can't listen to you when The Rock's there. Did you see the quarter hour this past Monday that The Rock? Have you seen The Rock's quarter hours?
Those graphs, yeah. I can tell when The Rock's quarter hours are by without even looking at the names. You look at the graph and go, "Yep, there's The Rock." Yeah,
and the dirty little secret is the rest of these shows aren't exactly. Look, they're not. I'm not saying they're doing bad.
They've been
but they're
good,
not
but
exactly
they haven't
crushing
been.
it.
Yeah, they have not been crushing it ratings wise.
These Rock quarter hours are fucking not only are they fucking enormous, but they're total anomalies compared to the rest of these Raws and SmackDowns. And I'm sorry, no disrespect to Cody, who's over as fuck, and no disrespect to Roman. They wouldn't be doing these quarters without The Rock at this level. That's why he's in the main event. That's why, realistically, if he really wanted to throw his weight around, he probably could have worked his way into the other main event too. He's the fucking Rock.
Well, he's going to work his way in there some way. He might not be able wrestling, bell to bell, but he'll be in there. Don't worry. The Rock will be a prominent part of the Sunday main event. But yeah, I'm sorry, guys. There's no way that, not when you have The Rock in the building.
I said this the moment this motherfucker came back. I said, he's The Rock. He automatically is the biggest thing in the company. And I don't care if they think they're rejecting him now. He's The Rock. The cream was gonna rise here. So anyway,
God has it risen, man. The best part about it is it's like he came in and people kind of booed him for a little bit, and then they cheered him for a little bit, and then they booed him for a little bit, and now he's a full on fucking heel, beating guys up and hitting them with belts and doing all that, and they fucking love him. He comes out, he gets the biggest pop, and everyone's just like, yeah. He's like a fucking asshole heel. He's bad mouthing the fans, all this sort of, and they're just like, yeah, Rock. It's just he can't, because he's the fucking Rock. He's owning the room, and when it's all done on this weekend, he's gonna be in that ring holding Cody's hand up, probably doing his little hand thing. Yeah, there we go, and setting up a future title match for himself or a future match with Roman. Like
it took him a couple weeks to figure it out, but once he did,
he's there. Yeah,
and Cody's smart enough to just go with the flow. Just whatever you want, Dwayne. Sure, Dwayne. He's not going to interfere. So anyway, that's night 1. Let's move on to night 2 here.
Yeah, night 2. And also, one thing I did notice, we've talked a lot about the Paul Levesque era WWE pay-per-views. I am very worried for this WrestleMania because there is not a whole lot of matches on these nights. I don't think they're adding anything here. These are long. These shows, if you haven't watched a live WWE pay-per-view in a long time, a premium live event or whatever, strap in for very long entrances and a lot of downtime between matches because, night 1 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 matches. There's that 6-pack ladder match. The entrances for that match alone are going to take 30 minutes. And Jimmy and Jey Uso, those entrances are going to take 30 minutes. The Cody Seth Bloodline match, those entrances are going to take 30 minutes. Rhea's going to, that's, you gotta, if you haven't watched in a while, maybe you're like, it's WrestleMania, I got to watch these things. Strap in, man.
These Levesque shows are a fucking slog.
We've been trying to entrances, and between matches, you're going to get like Philadelphia tourism
20 minutes
videos
between matches, and it's brutal. Yeah. These, if you haven't seen them, these Levesque pay-per-views are brutal watches. They're just painfully, you're probably going to want to be into it live because it's WrestleMania. I get it, but you really are better off watching them the next day where you can just skip straight to the fucking matches and get the shit moving because, night 2 has 6 matches announced. Yeah. That's packed full of matches by Levesque standards. This motherfucker's had the gall to put 4 match pay-per-views on. I mean, it's ridiculous, and then they're still 3 hours long. I mean, so 6 matches, this is like a tasty little treat. We're chock full of action.
Absolutely.
Here. So, and these fans, like I said, they lap it up. They spin it. They say, oh, well, that's good. It puts the focus on you could really let you laser focus on 4 or 5 matches. They'll defend anything. These people.
And to be fair, the most over part of WWE right now are the entrances. So I get it. I'm not going to rush Jey Uso doing his little hand thing and all the crowd doing yeets just to get them to wrestle their match. I mean, the most over thing.
Okay. Is the 25 minutes between matches over? I mean, do we need that?
You got to ask Paul on that one. Yeah, that I don't. Yeah, I don't need that. I don't need Philadelphia tourism videos and a look at Clash at the Castle and a look at past WrestleManias or a Bayley video package. There's always like a Bayley video package. It's like, why is there a Bayley video package? Why am I watching a Bayley video package here in the middle of night one? But yeah, they are.
I get you want to have your entrances. That makes sense. But I'm saying there's so much more other wasted time on these pay-per-views that it's utterly brutal. And these are what, going to be 5-hour shows probably? They're dedicating an hour per match, basically. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's do night 2 here. We got a lot to get.
Let's do Sunday. So we got United States title triple threat match. Joe, Logan Paul defending the title against Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. So you and I love Logan Paul. So I guess I'm fine with this, but it's a triple threat match. So my level of interest is usually reduced immediately.
I've enjoyed almost everything Logan Paul has done. He's got the feud with Kevin Owens going. I don't know why we felt the need to shoehorn Randy Orton in other than they had to give Randy Orton something to do on WrestleMania. They weren't leaving Randy Orton on the sidelines. So we have a triple threat.
Yep. AJ Styles, I believe they're calling him AJ Styles, but that man that keeps walking out does not look like AJ Styles versus LA Knight. Yeah.
All right.
Io Sky.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. WWE Women's Title match. Io Sky, all caps because she's evil, versus It's Bayley. Bayley, the redemption story. Bayley's going to do it. She's going to win the WWE Women's Title here on WrestleMania Sunday, right? They're going to finish the story with Bayley. They have to, right?
Well, maybe she'll finally win over the baby faces on night 1 since none of the baby faces trust her. And then come full circle, and maybe they will then come out and help her.
Right. Damage
Rich.
CTRL is going to come out, and then Bianca and
Naomi.
Jade and Naomi are going to fight them off, and then Bayley can have finally one-on-one and do it and finish her story and defeat Io Sky to win the WWE Women's Title match. Great.
Yeah. That's the other thing. Like, this is another thing that these fans remember. We talked about how you give these people a whiff of pro wrestling and they just lose their fucking minds.
Oh, are you talking about the babyfaces not trusting her and they're like, oh, great story. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah. The babyface is not trusting Bayley, who's been a heel for 5 years, is some kind of brilliant storytelling.
Yeah, it wasn't done by every territory ever for decades.
You know, this isn't exactly Dragon Gate where guys hold grudges for 13 years with one another, even when they're in the same unit. Like, you know, AEW has done shit like this since the day they existed, where old grudges are never forgotten. And
they don't tell stories. No, you're wrong. They don't tell stories.
You give these people a fucking whiff, and they can't and they lose their fucking shit. Do you know why? Because they don't watch other wrestling, and they're seeing all of this stuff for the first time. So they think all of this shit, like babyface is not trusting someone simply because they're a babyface now. They think this is reinventing the wheel.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They think Paul Levesque just invented fire because they've never seen this shit before.
Exactly. I think it was, I forget the exact quote, but it was many, many years ago that Jim Cornette, this is many, many, many years ago, way before whatever Cornette has become these days, where he said that you can basically do every single wrestling angle 10-year, there's like 10-year windows, or I don't know if it was 5-year or 10-year windows, that you can basically just run back every single angle because there's probably going to be enough new fans in those next 10 years that have no idea what those previous 10 years were. And this is what we're seeing right now with Paul Levesque, just doing basic pro wrestling from the last 50 years and it being like, oh my God, unbelievable. But yeah, it's true. You can just, the stories that worked in 1970 still work in 2024. You're just telling it to a brand new audience that's never seen it before. So they are lapping it up.
And on top of that point, these are stories that are done right now all over the world. But because these people don't watch anything else, to them it's never been done because Vince never did anything that made sense. Vince was so awful and never did anything. So now they're just getting stuff that's basic stuff that just like a guy getting whipped with a weight belt, you know, and it's like you brought up, like MJF straight up said on Twitter, like, I already did that with the same guy. Like, I whipped that guy with a fucking belt, you know? And it's like, but to these people, they don't know any wrestling outside of their little world. And it's like, they're so arrogant about it. Like, oh no, this is, but here's the thing. All of the shit that you think is so great is all the shit we've been telling you is good. That's happening everywhere else.
Right.
But you don't listen to us. It's fascinating from that standpoint.
It's not done in the big leagues, Joe, so it does not count. It's not done in WWE. What is going to be done in WWE on Sunday is the 6-man tag team Philadelphia street fight. The Pride, Angelo Dawkins, Bobby Lashley, and Montez Ford versus the Final Testament, where every single time I I see these names and I see them on the screen and I see a photo or a video of them, I still can't believe they're there. The Final Testament, Akam, Razor, and Karrion Kross. I cannot, and fucking Paul Ellering. What? Every time I see these guys, I'm taken aback that Paul was like, we got to get Authors of Pain and Karrion Kross back. We just gotta. And here they are at WrestleMania in a 6-man. They have 1,000 people in their performance center, and 3 of the 6-man here on WrestleMania Sunday is Akam, Razor, and Karrion Kross. What in the world? What?
I often refer to Alex Marvez as stealing money. Alex Marvez with AEW. But I gotta apologize to Mark. It's stealing money, Paul Ellering. I mean, this guy, they just
you don't think he's helping Akam and Razor make towns? You don't think he's, planning out there, doing the Road Warriors thing? Because he was like the Road Warriors actual assistant, right? He actually got them awake and to the building, and
so he was their legitimate behind the scenes manager, making sure they made the towns and negotiating their deals and all that. But on screen, he was utterly useless because
it was the Road Warriors. They didn't need anybody. It was the fucking Road Warriors. They didn't need anyone.
Yeah. And they may not have been like Nick Bockwinkel, Ric Flair style promos, but they were good promos in what they needed to get across. Hawk was a great promo. I mean, there's no question about it. Animal would just, they were perfect for their gimmick. So they didn't even need Paul Ellering to talk. Like, he would talk, and he would talk, and he would have his rolled up Wall Street Journal and speak intelligently and kind of be like this mastermind character, but he wasn't needed. And there was times he wasn't around, and they didn't miss a fucking beat. I don't know. Have you ever seen the Bobby Heenan shoot that he did with our video years ago?
I don't think I ever did. Yeah. I don't think. Actually, I did see it, but I don't remember the specifics of it. I do remember it though.
It's really good. You should watch it again. But he just goes off on Paul Ellering at one point. He's just, because they're talking about managers, and he's like, Paul Ellering comes up and he's like, well, what did he ever do? And the interviewer's like, well, I don't know. He's like, well, really, what does Paul Ellering do? He didn't do anything. And he's right. Paul Ellering he just exists. What does he do for Akam and Razor? Why are you paying this guy? What? You know what I mean? He's doing even less now than he ever did with the Road Warriors. Does he cut promos? Is he standing there at the podium with Shivani cutting a fucking promo for Akam and Razor? No, he doesn't do anything.
So. Yeah, it's and he's not even the top manager. It's like Scarlett is there too. So it's like you have Scarlett, and then in the background there's Paul Ellering.
This guy's just stealing money. What the fuck is this?
Good gig. Good gig if you can get it, man. Good gig if you can get it.
And they'll get released, and he'll go home, and then in 8 months they'll hire them, and then they'll bring him back again.
Yeah, it's great money. Yeah, great money. If you can get it.
It's incredible.
But any other thoughts on the Pride versus the Final Testament Philadelphia? It's going to be settled here at WrestleMania XL Sunday, Joe. The Pride versus Final Testament. It cannot continue. These men cannot exist in the same universe anymore. It must end here on Sunday.
Who could possibly care about this match? No, I have no other thoughts.
World Heavyweight Title match: Seth Rollins versus Drew Seth freaking Rollins versus Drew McIntyre.
I mean, for the fake world title, and Drew, I think, is doing some really interesting work right now with his heel work. And as I said, I think he'll attack Seth. That's
a good gimmick. Now that you mentioned that if that's not what they're going to do, that's probably what they should do.
Yeah, that gets that tag match out of a lot of trouble. You don't have to overthink the finish at that point. You don't have to beat anybody, right? Because no one will see that as a real loss for Seth if Drew attacks him. So, and then they'll have their match. And I don't know. I have no investment. I don't care who wins. Even if I was invested in this company, I don't think I would care about this title, because I don't think the title is over at all. So I don't know. It's the semi-main event of night 2, and
I guess the interest is how Seth body. I mean, I guess we'll find out a little bit on night one. I know he wrestled on Raw this week, and he did a little bit here and there. But this is a big time singles match. He's going to probably want to show out a little bit. He's coming back pretty aggressively from this injury. So is he able to kind of be Seth Rollins? I don't know. I guess that's my one interest, and I want to see what they do with Drew, because I love Drew's character work right now. I think it's really good. I kind of feel like it's all for naught, and I do also. There's the other issue too in this match, similar to what's going to happen in the main event, is that CM Punk's going to be down there, right? He's going to be doing commentary for this match. Everyone's going to be knowing that nothing in this match is probably going to matter until CM Punk gets involved in some way, shape, or form, right? Like, he's not just going to sit there at ringside and someone's going to win and then he's going to smirk at the guy. Like, he's going to do something. He's going to get physically involved in some way in this match, I'd imagine, right?
I probably, yeah. I mean,
so and that's kind of weird too, that you're gonna have back-to-back matches. Yeah, there's no reason for him to be out there just to have a guy, win and then hold a title and smirk at him and then CM Punk smirk back, and like, he's gonna get involved in some way, shape, or form, and that is gonna probably happen in the main event as well. We talked about that with, I think a lot of people are going to be waiting for how does The Rock factor into this? How do the other Bloodline guys factor into this? And it's gonna make it tough to really invest in a lot of the match bell to bell, because that some drop toe hold 11 minutes in doesn't fucking matter, because it only matters once The Rock gets involved. It only matters once the Bloodline gets involved. It only matters once, and whatever that end result is going to be, we'll see. We'll see what it's going to be. I don't really care either way. Like you said, I'd be fine with Cody losing again, because it would make for great radio and it'd be a great instant reaction live. So I selfishly kind of cheering for that. I think the most obvious story is that Cody just beats him and wins. Maybe The Rock, takes out Roman or helps take out the Bloodline, and then that leaves Roman with nobody to help him. He wants The Rock to help him, and The Rock's like, you're on your own, motherfucker. And then that's what finally, Cody can hit the crossroads and pin him 1, 2, 3 or whatever. And that'd be a great story, and they'd finally would have gotten there. It was very convoluted, their way to get there, but I think I wouldn't fuck around with that, and I would just do that story because that just makes the most sense. But hey, who knows? Maybe Tama Tonga comes out and it costs them I saw some people in our No Dope chat room were saying Cody wins and then Damian Priest cashes in his Money in the Bank. Can you imagine a worse end to WrestleMania than Senior Money in the Bank running down that ramp to cash in and defeat Cody?
No,
that is brutal.
Maybe Cody wins and then The Rock attacks him and then Damian Priest cashes in.
Brutal. You're going to end WrestleMania with Senior Money in the Bank?
Damian Priest. Now, look, I think that would be comically
I would
bad.
Love it. For the record, please do that, Paul. Please.
Here's the thing. I don't know. I think their fans would eat it up. It's storytelling, baby. They love these to just say everything. As long as you say it's a story, then it's good. I don't know. I mean, with this company, you can't really write anything off. We don't really know how Levesque is going to handle cash-ins. Vince would do something like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you would pitch that to Vince, and if he loved it, he'd be, that's a great idea. And they'd probably fucking do it.
The heat. The heat. You'd love the heat. That'd be great.
And I don't think, Cody, if he's really trying to be his father's son, I don't think he would mind losing the title instantly. That's a Dusty thing to do. But he doesn't have the same essence as his father. His father, it was, like we said before, his father was a totally different vibe. It was the representing the people, the working man, going against the aristocratic, rich, fuck every woman Ric Flair character. It was a different dynamic. That Dusty Rhodes was, Cody has some of that for the people thing, but he's not really presented as like a underdog like Dusty was, so I don't know. Yes, to answer your question, that'd be a stupid fucking ending to WrestleMania.
And I hope they do it. Paul, please do it.
Yeah, but I think that's I think we just previewed both. But hey, listen, since you brought up Punk, let me squeeze it in now. I don't have a lot to say about Punk. You already did a long, thorough, detailed segment on Flagship Plus on the Punk interview on the MMA Hour. But we've had some people ask me what I thought of it, because I didn't talk about it on my version of Flagship Plus. The reason I didn't is because Rich already covered it. And what's the point of covering the same ground on two different shows? I don't know. It's just not, philosophically, that's just not what we do. But since this is a big topic, I'll address it. I don't have a ton to say. Here's why I don't like talking about CM Punk anymore. Because people can't handle when you talk about CM Punk. The people who, it's become politics with Punk. It's become religion. It's become tribalism when it comes to Punk. And There's Punk fans who think he can do no wrong and everything he says is the truth. And if you slander him, then you're a mark or a cuck or you suck Meltzer's dick or whatever other else nonsense is. And if you agree with anything Punk says, the other side, the people who can't stand Punk, the hardcore AEW fan, they get on your case and they think you're a lunatic and you're sticking up. So I just don't really have any, and it doesn't really interest me that much either, to be completely honest, what Punk has to say anymore. Because here's the thing with Punk. The man is a walking hypocrite. We all know that. His interview with Helwani was loaded with massive hypocrisies, which, again, I don't need to go over. Go listen to what Rich had to say. Okay? CM Punk, Phil Brooks, lives by a code of ethics that he holds everybody else to, but doesn't hold himself to. Okay? We all know that. And at the same time in this interview, I do think that he brought up some very inconvenient truths about AEW that I don't think hardcore AEW fans are ready to reconcile with. I do. He said several things in that interview that were inconvenient truths about that company and about Tony Khan, while being completely full of shit for the other 70%. But I'm not interested in getting involved in it because I've said everything that I've ever needed to say about CM Punk when we were doing CM Punk at the top of every show for however many months straight it was. All right. And the fact is, a lot of people can't, I shouldn't say most. Okay. But the people on each side of the dividing line when it comes to Punk cannot handle Punk conversation maturely and intelligently. They just can't because they're too blinded by the side that they've picked. Punk is either the fucking devil and the most evil person that's ever existed, or he's an angel and a savior and he's completely right about everything. And you must be a stupid fucking mark if you dispute anything he says. Quite honestly, I'm not even interested in anything he says anymore. I'm over it. I have Punk fatigue. So people wanted my Punk thoughts on that. And I'll tell you something else. I didn't even listen to the whole fucking interview. I watched the clips on Helwani's Twitter feed, which basically was the whole interview. And then I slapped play on it. I listened to 12 minutes and I X'd out because I was like, what am I doing? I don't even care about any of this. I'm tired of Punk. So anyway, those are my Punk thoughts. Rich, do you have an ad to read or something? Because I got to piss like in the worst way I've ever had to piss in my life.
I do not have an ad, but you know what? I will talk to people about what's coming up this week at Flagship Patreon. Do you want to do that? You go pee and I will I will do that. So Joe is going to take a leak, and we are going to take a peek at what is coming ahead for WrestleMania. That is awful, and I hate that I did that, and I apologize in advance for doing that. Not even in advance. I apologize for doing that at all. WrestleMania Weekend audio schedule. So already this week, you've gotten 2 episodes of Flagship Plus over at flagshippatreon.com. That is our new $5 Flagship supplement shows that we're doing throughout the week. You have 2 of those available to you right now. I did CM Punk. I talked all about CM Punk's interview with Ariel Helwani. I talked a little bit about AEW releases and talked about Julia showing up in Noah and what it meant or what it could mean for Rossy Ogawa's new Joshi Wrestling promotion. So that is all available. Well, let's talk about the WWE Hall of Fame. If you want in-depth, not really, discussion about the WWE Hall of Fame, did that on my episode of the Flagship Plus. Now, the Flagship Plus that Joe did on the same day, I believe they were both on Monday. Maybe they were on Tuesday. I forget what day. I don't know what day anything is anymore. I believe they were actually on Tuesday now that I think about it. Joe did extensive thoughts about the AEW releases, the 10 names that got released from AEW, so extensive thoughts about that. Talked about MLW War Chamber, reviewed that show, and then discussed the 0-1 situation that we talked about at the top of the show. So if you want more 0-1 content, AEW releases, and MLW War Chamber, that is on Joe's episode of Flagship Plus, my episode of Flagship Plus. In-depth thoughts about the CM Punk review, including line by line of what he said, what were contradictions, all that sort of stuff. That is available on the $5 tier over at flagshippatreon.com. Wednesday, you're listening to this right now. If you're not listening live, you're listening to this on a Thursday. You're wondering what the hell's going on. Why is the Flagship on Thursday morning? Wednesday Flagship, because tomorrow we're getting started right out of the gates. Joe is going to do an afternoon audio show, $5 tier, covering the first major shows of the weekend. Defy Wrestling, Labor of Love and Sean Henderson presents Euphoria. Anything else that comes up that afternoon that he watches, he is going to talk about that. Then later that night, we don't exactly know when, but we are going to record an audio show. This is also going to be on the $5 tier of this show. Not live. We're just going to record it and put it up on the $5 tier. We're going to cover some of Thursday night's big shows, including the WrestleCon Super Show, Action Wrestling's Dean, Bloodsport, all those shows. We're going to watch those and cover. We'll split them up. We'll figure out how to watch them. We'll second screen. We'll do whatever we have to do to cover as many of the big Thursday night shows as we can. A lot of them running up head-to-head with each other, but we'll figure it out. We're covering that on the $5 tier on Thursday night. Friday night, Instant Reaction Live immediately after ROH Supercard of Honor. That is on our $10 tier at flagshippatreon.com. Saturday, as we talked about, WrestleMania XL, Instant Reaction Live immediately after the Saturday show. Tentatively, maybe additional audio shows on Saturday afternoon as we catch up on the shows. NXT Stand and Deliver, Kaiju Big Battle, Effie's Big Gay Brunch, ETU versus Dragon Gate. When we can get to the stuff, we'll watch it, and we'll do shows when we have time. But guaranteed you're going to get a Saturday Instant Reaction Live, and on Sunday you are guaranteed again to get an Instant Reaction Live immediately after WrestleMania on Sunday, with the idea that maybe there will be some other shows on Sunday as well, because not a lot of wrestling going on Sunday morning, so it gives us a lot of time potentially to catch up on things and maybe do an audio show. But you're guaranteed to get a Sunday Instant Reaction Live, a Saturday Instant Reaction Live, a Friday Instant Reaction Live, a Thursday audio show at night with Joe and me, as well as a Joe audio show live, or not live, a Joe solo audio show, I should say, on Thursday afternoon. So you're guaranteed to get those and maybe some other shit in between as well. But nobody's going to cover WrestleMania weekend like we are. We're going to watch as many shows, cover as many shows, review as many shows as humanly possible. But that is all available at flagshippatreon.com. Joe, are you back?
Yeah, thanks for that. Like Rich said, the Flagship Plus has been a big hit with the subscribers. People love it. Basically, I'm not trying to name drop other. I guess they're sort of in the vein of like a Wrestling Observer Radio or daily news audio that some other sites might do. Rich and I both did about an hour and 15 minutes yesterday, 2 separate shows. So you're getting almost another 3 hours of Flagship style formatted shows where we talk about the news. And it's topics that quite honestly wouldn't have made the run sheet for this show. So we're calling it supplemental add-on Flagship content. We never would have gotten to the 0-1 split situation or Rich talked about the Slammies. Didn't you talk about the Slammies on the Flagship Plus?
Not the one I did a couple weeks ago I did, and then on this one I did this week I talked about the WWE Hall of Fame and who's going into the Hall of Fame. There's not a chance in hell, and I said there's absolutely zero fucking chance ever that we would talk about the WWE Hall of Fame. But you know what? Screw it. I got Flagship Plus, so let's talk about it. So I briefly talked about the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and you talked Stardom on one of them, and it gives us a chance to do longer form monologues on certain topics that we feel passionate about, that we have points to make on. So it's additional Flagship content. You're averaging probably more than one a week at this point. We did 2 yesterday alone. I mean, 2 of them came out within hours of each other. So that's been a great value add on the $5 tier. That's not even on the $10 tier. You get those for $5. The other thing I wanted to mention is, I don't know how many people know this, but we also have a free tier. You can subscribe to the Patreon for free. And what that gets you is, if you're not someone who wants to stay subscribed month after month on the 5 or the 10, maybe you like to drop in for Instant Reaction Live. Maybe you like to drop in for Jovember to Remember. Maybe you like to drop in when Rich has when Rich does his seasonal series, and you wait for one to look interesting to you, and you happen to like those, or you're waiting for when we occasionally break news, whatever it is. If you subscribe on the free tier, you'll get all of our push notifications and emails. So you'll know what's going on, okay? And then if you see something you like, you can say, oh, all right, I'm going to throw him a $5 now because I want to hear that audio. Or I'll throw him $10 now because I want to read that column that Rich just wrote, or whatever the case may be. And the other thing is, every now and then, we do put free content behind the paywall. We just had free content behind the paywall this week, didn't we? We had a couple...
Yeah, I did recommended matches, or the matches that I'm looking forward to this WrestleMania weekend. I did a post about that. We did what was the other post? The WrestleMania preview that I did. I did a whole preview show with Griffin that was available for free on our Patreon feed as well. We've been doing some question stuff as well, like discussions, and that's actually been a lot of fun. Is asking questions and then people kind of in the comments giving some replies and discussing. Like we're trying to make it sort of a discussion community as well on the Patreon too. So yeah, you got that available and a lot of other stuff that we put, and occasionally we just throw a free show up there as well. So
right,
yeah, it's a way for you to stay informed about what we're doing, even if like you have to unsubscribe for whatever reason, or you want to unsubscribe for whatever reason. Like there's financial reasons to unsubscribe, and sometimes people just say, I'm not really getting my money's worth right now, and that's fine. We don't care. If you're not getting your money's worth, feel free to unsubscribe. But at least if you stay on that free tier, you do know when things are coming up, and then you have an idea. Okay, this is kind of what I want. I'm waiting for a Jovember to remember. Cool, they posted a Jovember to remember. Now I can subscribe again. It keeps you on track of what we're doing.
Yeah, and like I said, every now and then you're going to get something for free anyway.
Right.
Because I don't know if a lot of people know that occasionally we put up stuff for free. There's also that $1 tier where if you really don't care to get extra content from us, and this show's enough for you, and believe me, I understand, and you just want to support us in some small way, you could subscribe for $1. And again, every now and then we do put something on there that's unlocked for the $1 subscribers. So there's other options too, aside from the $5 and $10 option, if you just want to keep up with what we're doing behind the paywall. And if you've thought about all this time, maybe subscribing, but you're not sure, I think hopping on the free tier or the $1 tier is a good way to see how often we're posting, to see if it's worth your money, and to see what we're putting up. And then, a lot of people hop on that free tier and then, and then they like what they see, and we see a ton of upgrades, and we see a lot of people bounce back and forth. Like Rich said, all right, well, this month, I don't have the extra money, or I don't like the content you guys are doing, so I'll drop out for a month, but then maybe I'll come back next month. So I want to push that free tier because that's not something that we had really been pushing, and I think that maybe not a lot of people were aware of it. Anyway, that's it for the extended commercial. I took my piss. Are you all right over there, Rich? Is everything good?
I'm good. Yeah. I'll let you know if I need a piss later, but I think I'm all right. Real quick, let's do this as rapid fire as humanly possible. NXT Stand and Deliver, like you said, upwards of 13,000 tickets sold. Maybe get to 14,000 when we get there on this weekend, but it's like a noon show. I think it kicks off at noon Eastern, I want to say, maybe 1 Eastern, I forget. It's a very early afternoon show. Izzy Dame, JC Jane, and Kiana James versus Fallon Henley, Kalani Jordan, and Thea Hale. Obafemi versus Dijak versus Josh Briggs for the North American title. Another triple threat match. NXT Tag Team titles, Baron Corbin and Braun Breaker versus Axiom and Nathan Frazier. NXT Women's title, Lyra Valkyria versus Roxanne Perez, the new and improved Roxanne Perez. She's a different woman. She doesn't even recognize herself anymore. The woman she's become is completely different. She doesn't even know who she is anymore. And then NXT title match, Ilya Dragunov versus Tony D'Angelo. And then Carmelo Hayes versus Trick Williams. That is NXT Stand and Deliver.
Yeah, so Thea Hale's back to being a babyface and being the most obnoxious character in all of pro wrestling. So that's kind of the story there as she goes for revenge on Toxic Attraction 3 on the other side of the 6-woman tag. That's just a bunch of people who I have no interest in, and they're just candy cutter, created in a lab, shitty ass pro wrestlers.
Yeah, Izzy Dame, who's a dollar store Tiffany Stratton. Kiana James is like an entrepreneur or something. It's just Disney Channel bullshit. So there you go.
Yeah, Obafemi, perfect candidate for a developmental system. I mean, obviously he's got the look of a star, but he's got a long ways to go before he's ready. So we'll see what happens there, and he's got a big match in a 3-way here, and we'll see how he does. As far as some of the other matches, Roxanne Perez, like you said, she's a heel now, but she's doing the same shtick she was doing in all of her other feuds. It's the same shtick, except now she's a heel.
But she cuts you people promos now. I was everything, and then you people didn't believe in me. It's like, great. Same
old shit, boring as hell. And I find her extremely off-putting, and I think she's going to be on the main roster probably sooner than later, and she's perfect for the current tone and vibe of WWE, but she's decidedly not for me. I heard the go home angle was good. I didn't watch NXT this week though.
I also missed NXT this week, believe it or not. So
we'll see if Dragunov can get a great match out of Tony D'Angelo. He gets great matches out of virtually everybody he works with. I think Tony D'Angelo is way too gimmicky, even by WWE standards. I think if he when he ends up on the main roster, there has to be an overhaul. I mean, he's just way too cartoonish and gimmicky. There's going to have to be some adjustments.
Yeah, it's too hard to believe that this guy can just come and it's hard to believe him in a main event, given how much, like you said, he's just like, hey, we're gonna drink some espresso, talk about it. You know what I mean? With his like the worst accent the worst, like my fake Italian accent trying to be bad, and it's somehow even worse than that. You know what I mean? It's deplorable. Yeah, it's so bad.
It's bad. Yeah, and then Carmelo Hayes
break bread. Hey, it's somebody trying to cosplay Andrew Dice Clay doing bad. You know what? It's at that level of not even an impersonator, but impersonating the impersonator. Basically, is what.
Well, it's a Disney Channel or Teen Nick version of what an Italian gangster would be.
Right.
That's what it is.
Hey.
It's just a fucking cornball show with cornball characters for cornball people. That's what NXT is. I know I'm really mean when I talk about it, but I can't wrap my head around a grown adult enjoying this show. I can't. I don't understand it. And then Carmelo Hayes, Trick Williams, which has been a well-built match.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
Oh, yeah.
And, Hayes, they brought him up to the main roster. He flopped harder than a fucking dead fish.
Are we just not going to talk about that? That reminds me. Remember when Gargano and Ciampa went to the main roster? And this was many, many years ago. It was like 5 years ago or whatever, and just flopped. And they just immediately put him back on NXT and acted like they never meant to the way. I think didn't Ciampa, maybe Ciampa got hurt or something like that. And they realized Gargano was just going to sink. And then Triple H just slowly slinked Gargano back to NXT and pretended that he was never on the main roster. That's kind of what they did with Hayes here. But I feel like Trick's got to win this. I mean, let's be honest. Trick has to win this match. I'm going to have a real what the fuck are we even doing here if Trick doesn't win this match? Because they have something with this guy.
Trick has to win, and Carmelo has to go back to the main roster.
Exactly. It has to be the end result of this. It cannot be anything else.
And then Trick has to continue on and become the face of NXT, and for however long that's going to be. Because this is one where we were dead on. I mean, he had more upside than Carmelo from the start, and we saw it immediately. And, now we get to see if it plays out, if the guy really has what it takes, and he'll get every opportunity, and he should. And Carmelo got called up, and I know I'm not imagining that because he had that terrible match with Austin Theory, right? Mm-hmm. And he had his short little run. He didn't get over.
He looked like everyone's little brother, like we always said, because he's like 5'6", and
he didn't have the necessary charisma to, and he'll get another shot. And maybe they'll try a little harder this time, and I'm sure that they will. And it's not that I don't think Carmelo Hayes is a useful pro wrestler. I just think he's a guy on a roster.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Hey, look, Dean Malenko was a guy on the roster, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that spot, but I don't there's this idea that has the potential to be a top star. Could you even imagine this guy in a main event scene with Cody, Roman, and The Rock? Could you even picture it? He'd get eaten alive by no fault of his own. He's not going to be able to hang at the top of a competent major league pro wrestling roster with real stars. But can he be a guy on the roster? Yes. Should he lose this match to Trick, who could be a main event? Main eventer down the line potentially. Trick can be. I'm not saying he will be. I'm saying Trick can be. So yes, Trick needs to win this. Carmelo needs to head to the main roster because there's nothing left for him to do in NXT. And then we need to see the Trick Williams scenario play out over the next year and a half, 2 years, whatever it is, as they build him up in NXT.
So there you go. That is NXT Stand and Deliver. And now let's bounce around a couple of other Mania weekend shows that kind of caught our eye, or ones that I think we're interested in and want to cover throughout the weekend.
We're making a good pace here.
We're doing well.
A good pace here.
We're doing great.
We're doing a nice job.
We are. We're pros here. When we need to be pros, we need to be pros. Supercard of Honor, obviously. We're going to be doing that on Friday. Instant Reaction Live for that on Friday night. We're doing this show on a Wednesday, so obviously they have the go home Ring of Honor. I think they already did that. I haven't read spoilers or anything. I kind of don't do the spoiler thing much anymore. So if I'm missing a match that they build on Thursday, then okay, whatever. But I'm gonna go with what they have built right now as of April 3rd, 2024 on television. What we've seen, what they've built, what they've announced, all that sort of stuff. Eddie Kingston and Mark Briscoe, obviously, yeah, that's going to be great. I think the end result needs to be and should be Mark Briscoe defeating Eddie Kingston to win the ROH World Title.
You think so?
I think so. I think that's the way to go.
Talk me through that.
Well, they're in Philly. They're doing, I think I saw. Did you watch that Mark video package where we talked about Jay and this match? It was they're way too on the nose, I think, to just have him go out there and Eddie Kingston just beat him. And I think Mark winning this title here in Philadelphia at Supercard of Honor, defeating Eddie, I think makes all the sense in the world. And I think also Eddie losing the title is probably for the best too, because we want to maybe we always say the best Eddie is a miserable Eddie. I think there's no better way than to have him lose one title and now this title and really be looking and searching for, soul searching to get back on that. I think that's the way to go. I don't think you can have Eddie Kingston do a back fist to Mark Briscoe and just beat him. They did that, obviously, 6-7 months ago, whenever they did it.
Last
I feel like
with Joe beat Mark.
Oh, right, Joe. Yeah, I completely forgot that. But that, I feel like now you can't do that again, can you? I mean, I guess you could, but doesn't it don't you feel like it makes sense for Mark to win this thing here?
I do. Now, admittedly, I very, very rarely watch the ROH show. I did crash watch the last couple because, I'm going to watch a pay-per-view. I have to be caught up on what the fuck's going on in the company. But I just don't feel like this is, I don't know.
It doesn't feel like a hot match. I will say that.
It doesn't feel like a big match to me.
It doesn't.
It doesn't feel like a big match to me. And this feels like an extremely weak card overall. I just don't think. Yeah, let's go. That's a series win over a tough team. I just don't think it's a great card overall. I think the Supercard of Honor on paper stinks. I would go as far as to say I think the card stinks. And I don't think this main event feels super, it doesn't feel like we've built up to this ultimate Mark Briscoe moment. That's all. Now, the night of when he wins, is it going to feel good? Am I going to feel happy? Yeah, I'll probably be into it. How could you not be?
Of course. A lot of people in the chat room bringing up that it's 11 years to the day that Jay won the title for the first time as well.
Again, go ahead and do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I just wanted to hear you talk through it. That's all.
Yeah, and with full disclosure, I'm with you too. That I don't see this as a piping hot, oh my god, I can't wait, counting down the minutes until I get to see this match. I feel like it's the biggest match on the show, undoubtedly, and it's going to be a great match. I think. I'm not going to bet against Eddie Kingston and Mark Briscoe in a big spot. But with that said, yeah, it doesn't feel piping hot. It doesn't feel like, oh man, here's the match that's going to main event the show that's going to steal the weekend. You know what I mean? I don't feel that way.
We've been building to this for a year,
right?
Nothing like that. This is just, and so from that standpoint, it's, I don't know the words I'm looking for. Not that I feel like it'd be a waste to put the title on Briscoe here. That's not the right way to phrase it.
You just thought the moment would feel right. You thought the moment would be so obvious in front of you. This is the moment to do it. And
do maybe a bigger and longer build against a nasty heel. That's what I would like to see. A bigger and longer build against some heel that nobody can stand. Everybody likes Eddie Kingston. And the match hasn't been built all that long or well. That's all. I don't know. I'm not that excited about this card at all. I look at this card and I'm really not interested in it, period. This card looks like shit. I'm going to be honest. I'll go that far. No, I don't think it looks like a good card.
I'm with you. I'm with you because then you have Athena and Hikaru Shida, which, Athena's been doing great work on ROH, but it's I'm always pretty low on Hikaru Shida. A lot of people fucking love Hikaru Shida. I don't know. Do I think Athena and Hikaru Shida are going to have a great match? I don't know that. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think they could.
Look, at the end of the day, the card might end up being very good because they've all the ROH pay-per-views have been very good. I'm just saying on paper, I am not hyped up about the show at all. There's a lot of stuff I'm not interested in. It's not like I'm going to be watching the show with gritted teeth and my arms folded, not wanting to like it. Of course, I want it to be a great show. And if it's a great show, I'm going to come on here Friday night on Instant Reaction Live, $10 tier, and tell everybody how great the show was and how I was wrong about how it looked on paper. I would love to be wrong. I want to see a great show, but I'm not hyped up about any of these matches. I have to be honest. That's just, Athena and Hikaru Shida, could they have a great match? Yes, they can. They could. Yeah, sure. Am I invested in that at all? I'm not. I have to admit that I'm not. I know a lot of people are wrapped up in Athena though.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that could be a me thing. I understand a lot of people think she's having this legendary title reign. I think it's fine.
It's a good title reign. It's a good title reign. Yeah, I don't think it's legendary.
Look, I don't watch the show week to week. I crash watch the show before a pay-per-view. So look, and maybe that's on me. Maybe I would think it's a legendary title. But here's the thing. I haven't been into her shit with the minions and tying this into the Billy Starkz Queen Amanata tournament final match. The way they handled the Athena Billy Starkz match, I thought was a big miss. Okay. You build up to Starkz getting the match with Athena after being bullied all that time, right? And then Athena just beats her. And then Starkz just shrugs her shoulders and shakes her hand.
Yeah, I hated that. I hated that so much.
That was so hard. It was terrible. That's like, that to me is when I threw my hands at the whole Athena thing. Like, that was so poorly booked. And now we're creating a new title for Billy Starkz because we don't have the guts to just have Billy Starkz beat Athena. Why don't we just show some guts and have Billy Starkz beat Athena at the last pay-per-view, which would have been the right move and would have tied up that story perfectly. The story there was Billy Starkz beating her bully and taking her title.
Right. In the show, in a couple weeks before, or I forget, it was the go home show. I was there live for it or whatever. And like, Billy Starkz finally said, I've had enough, and threw the stuff down. Didn't want to, she wasn't able to graduate. Athena said, you didn't graduate. And she said, enough of this shit. Beat her up, threw the stuff down. I'm not a minion anymore. And then lost, and then said, all right, I'll be a minion again. And just like, whoa, that sucks. Like, what are we doing,
That's so
man?
bad.
Yeah.
Like, you get bullied all that time, then you get beaten, then you're just like, can't beat him, join him, I guess.
Right, yeah, Hiroki Goto. It's the Hiroki Goto thing. We're like, damn, wow, that Rainmaker's pretty tough. All right, can I be with you? And Goto's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Great.
So
cool.
Now this TV title, if she wins it, it comes off like a consolation prize.
Right, comes across like the cup title, like Seth Rollins' thing.
Right, like you can't win the real title. We'll give her this little consolation prize, and because we don't have the guts to just have her beat Athena now. Just have her. She should just beat Athena the first time. So to me, that takes a lot of the juice out of the rest of Athena's title reign, which I haven't cared enough to even pay attention to. And I've said, look, I've said my piece, Chrissy, about this fucking ROH TV title tournament a million times. I'm not going to repeat the same rant that I always repeat. I'm not in favor of this title. They should have done a tag title instead. And this is a consolation prize for Billy Starkz. So I am not into Billy Starkz Queen Amanata. I'm sure it'll be a fine match. And I'm sure I'll come on here Friday night and tell everybody what a fine match it was. Can I sit here and tell you I give a shit about it or I'm invested in it? I cannot tell you that.
Yeah, I also don't know if it's going to be good either. Like, I like Queen Amanata a lot. And trust me, there was nobody that was higher on her before. You can go look in the archives of this Patreon 2 years ago where I said, she can be a star, and she's got all the makings of a star. Don't, get on this bandwagon now because she's going to be a big time deal. I said that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or whatever. You can go back in the archives and find it. I'm very high on her, and I think that, but she's not like that level of worker yet. Nor is Billy Starkz, and I think Billy Starkz is way improved from where she was a couple years ago as well. I just don't have a whole lot of hope that these two can go in there and just absolutely steal the show or have a great match. I don't know if it's going to be a great match. And again, we're back to that again. Like, I think with this Athena, and like I said with Athena and Hikaru Shida, I think it could be a good match, but I also think it might be just okay. Billy Starkz and Queen Amanata could also have a great match, but I also think it could probably just be okay, and I'm probably going to vote that both those matches are probably just going to be okay. If I had to make a prediction right now, I would say both those matches are going to be just okay, and I think that kind of comes with a lot of these other matches on this show. Like, we have now this one, I think is going to be really good, and I think these women are going to go out there to try to kill it, but it's Azumi and Saya Kamatani versus and Tam Nakano versus Maika, Mina Shirakawa, and Mi Sierra, and they're going to go out there, and I think they're going to try to kill it. And I have a lot of faith that match is going to be really good. Can I tell you that you should care a lot about this match? Probably not. This is not a care match. This is just kind of a 6 people are going to go out there and hopefully try to go and steal the show. But I think you take this off the card and it's really dire. I think this match greatly improves this card a lot because I think there's a possibility that it is a really, really, really good match. So there's that, but there's not a whole lot of build and story involved in it. It's just kind of 6 people are going to go out there and have a good match. And then you have...
That's fine because Tony has put a lot of matches like that on ROH pay-per-views, and I wish he would have put more on this show.
Yeah, I agree.
I am going to go into that match open-minded, and I hope they fucking kill it. I hope this is the 2006 Dragon Gate 6-man all over again. And I hope this is the talk of the weekend, and it's a fucking 5-star match because there's not a lot else to sink your teeth into on this card. And I hope that these women go out there understanding what a big opportunity it is and really have the working shoes on. And I think that they will. And if they're as good as everybody says they are, then it has a chance. It has a legitimate chance to be the best match on this show. There's no doubt about it, because there's not, Kingston Briscoe, I'm sure, is going to be great. And the 2 women's matches we just talked about, there's some variance there. They could be great. They might just exist. So this match, this 6-woman match, absolutely has a chance to be not only the match of the night, but possibly one of the matches of the entire weekend.
Absolutely.
And I hope that that's the case, because I hope Tony has lightning in a bottle here with this Stardom relationship, because as we've said a million times, I think it's so cool that AEW, Stardom, CMLL, Rev Pro, New Japan all have this working relationship with each other. And it really opens up so many great possibilities, not just for Forbidden Door shows, but for stuff like this. So I hope it works out, and I hope it's great.
So a little bit of a spoiler here, Joe. So if anybody that doesn't want to get spoiled, we got a match set up from the TV tapings tonight. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, I saw this one.
Yeah.
I saw it. The tag title match.
Kingdom versus the Infantry for the tag titles. Again,
not knocking myself.
not exactly going to turn this card around. So there you go. Kyle Fletcher.
I'll say this.
Go ahead.
Can I say this?
Yeah.
This card, unlike a lot of the other ROH cards, if you're a weekly ROH watcher,
there's a lot there for you.
They're giving you a card for you and a payoff to the shit that you watch every week. So you might think this card is better than I think it is, because I parachute into ROH because I don't really like the weekly show. And I'm accustomed to ROH shows where Tony just like puts Commander and Vikingo on it for some reason. And then they just go out there with the goal of just to fucking do a bunch of cool shit. But if you're a fan of the ROH product, you're getting a lot of payoffs here. So we should be fair about it. Like, this is a well-booked show based on what's been happening on the TV. I just don't think the TV's any good, and I'm not juiced up about any of these matches.
And then the final 2 that we have here, Kyle Fletcher defending the world television title against Lee Johnson. Again, has a chance to be really good, but also has the chance to be just okay. I love Fletcher. Lee Johnson, sometimes I like him, and sometimes I'm kind of indifferent to him. So I guess hopefully we get the best of him here. A big opportunity for him too. So hopefully he stands out here. And then, go ahead.
I think I am still buying Lee Johnson stock. I love him. I see all kinds of upside with Lee Johnson. I really do. I see 1986 Sting. That's what I see when I watch him. I don't know why. He reminds me so much of like 1985, 1986 Sting. And Kyle Fletcher obviously is great. So this is like a dark horse match. If Lee Johnson is ready, big spot for him to have that kind of match, they can have, because Fletcher will hold up his end. We know that. So in terms of matches on this show that I've got circled, or the old Rich Creech gimmick, what do I have in bold? It's that one.
Yeah. I hope. Yeah, I do. This is a big. I really hope Lee Johnson. Yeah, he could grab this by the horns. You know what I mean? He can grab this entire weekend by the horns if he goes out there and him and Fletcher go out there and just fucking kill it. He could absolutely do that. I'm not as high on him as you are, but hopefully, good opportunity for him to convince me that I've been wrong this whole time and prove to me that he's great. And then a fight without honor, Johnny TV versus Dalton Castle. Could not possibly care less about Johnny fucking TV.
Anything with Johnny TV is junk.
Yeah.
The boys obviously.
The boys aren't going to be there. The boys aren't even going to be there. What are we even doing here? What?
Well, the question is, do we go back to just having random jobbers as boys?
Oh, yeah, I guess you could do that.
Like, you don't need to have the Tate twins, even though they're clearly the best boys. I mean, they have that act down pat. They're great at it. The spots that he does with them, where he uses them as projectiles. I mean, it's a great act.
Good. It's a great act. It's a great act.
It's but we've seen eras of Dalton Castle where ROH would just use whatever local indie guys were on hand, and those are your boys. Which then always opens you up down the line to do angles where guys are hidden as boys, and then you do an angle.
Sure, right.
Which they've done a couple times too. You know what I mean? You can't do that if the Tate twins are always the boys. But we're going to find out very quickly now if we're going to keep the boys as a gimmick now that the Tate twins are no longer with the company. I've talked to people who have worked with the Tate twins, and I am told that their work between the bells is excellent, and people love working with them. Like, they were never going to get pushed, obviously, but
I've heard that too.
More,
I think from a different person than you did that said that, like, if they ever want to do something with those guys. Those guys are great workers. I love working with those guys. This is what I heard from this person.
Yeah, they're the quintessential wrestlers think these guys are great wrestlers. Do you know what I mean when I say that?
Of course. Yeah.
And look, I didn't think they were going to push them, but they're definitely guys where, for whatever reason, people just loved working with them. So, I don't know. It's unfortunate, but, we'll see if the gimmick continues with the old local jobbers.
Yeah. But that is ROH Supercard of Honor. Anything else that you wanted to touch on from the weekend that you think we should at least talk about really quickly? Bloodsport, I guess, is, you always say about Bloodsport, and I kind of agree. Sometimes on paper, I don't know if this Bloodsport looks great on paper either. I think, Abe versus Nomura, again, is going to be great. Baszler and Slamovich, I'm kind of interested in seeing that, but I don't know that I love a lot of the rest of the card. Like Josh Barnett versus Johnny Bloodsport, again, no thank you. Nick Nemeth and Mike Bailey, that might be good if Nemeth is in the right frame of mind, but yeah, I don't know. Matt Mikowski and Akira, Timothy Thatcher versus Axel Tischer. I don't know. Yeah, there's not a whole lot that I love on this Bloodsport. I think Abe and Nomura is going to be great, and I'm pretty into Baszler and Slamovich, but I think the rest of it I could probably not really give a shit about, to be honest.
Always better on paper than in practice. I'm not going to be fooled by Bloodsport anymore. I get all excited and then I watch and I'm like, that show was all right. And a couple of the matches are always just like straight trash because the opponents don't mesh well or they don't work the style, all that, so I don't know. It'll be fine. Bloodsport's always fine.
I do want to shout out Defy. That's at 11 a.m. tomorrow, by the way, Defy, and they're on Triller TV. That show, pretty much from top to bottom, I like. It's, Kenta versus Gringo Loco, a trios three-way with Sovereign versus Dragon Gate versus Cody Chun, Guillermo Rosas, and Casey Navarro. Chris Brooks and Kid Lycos versus the Moonlight Express, Mike Bailey and Mao. Defy Women's Championship, Vert Vixen, Trish Adora, and Sawyer Wreck. Well, it's not Sawyer Wreck anymore, but they added somebody else. I forget who they did. They added somebody to the match. It came on right before we came on the show. I don't know the name. I don't really care to look it up right now. But you got a BMF Battle Royal, Shaft, Luke Jacobs, Galeno Del Mal, and Gene Money. I like that. The Bollywood Boys versus Man Like DeReese and Leon Slater. Like, I like almost that entire card. So Kenta versus Gringo Loco is your main event. So I think that Defy show, underrated on kicking us off on 11. A professional operation, Defy Wrestling, all decent bookings, using people at the best abilities. Like, that's one of the things that sometimes these cards have good names, but used in the worst ways possible. This is like using everybody, I think, in the best way possible on a show that should hopefully be a pretty damn good show. So I'm really excited about Defy on Thursday, and of course the WrestleCon Super Show. That one is it's almost always the best show of the weekend, one of the more professional shows of the weekend. And man, that Team CMLL versus Team Draggate match, Mystico Averno, Cavernario, Viano 3 Jr., Star Jr. versus Dragon Kid, Shun Skywalker, Kota Minoura, and Ben K and Yamato. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
And that's going to be great. Even Joey Janela and Nick Nemeth, I'm interested in. Masato Tanaka, Josh Alexander, I'm interested in. And then, look, it's a joke, but the Los Boricuas versus the Full-Blooded Italians, that's doing WrestleMania weekend right. You know what I mean? That's a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, har, har match that I can get down with. There's so much of that bullshit, that wink, wink, nudge, nudge bullshit on WrestleMania weekend, but this is one that like gets the gimmick. You know what I mean? This is what a fun WrestleMania weekend match looks like, is the Los Boricuas versus FBI. With the TBA and the FBI as well. Who do you think's filling in that spot? You're the ECW historian here. Yeah, Little Guido, Tommy Rich, Tony Mamaluke, and TBA. Who you got?
If they found JT Smith, I'm gonna pop through the roof. No,
when's the last time he's been around? Like, when's the last time anybody is?
No, I know a promoter who's been looking for him.
Okay.
And he, because, he's still to this day has a cult following, JT Smith. I mean, I love JT Smith.
Oh, yeah.
I hope it's him. I mean, that'd be, but trying to think, WrestleCon, who would they think would be a good mystery person for the FBI? Who's an Italian pro wrestler who's been...
Oh, you think we're just going to find an Italian pro wrestler?
Yes, because I think if you bring JT Smith out,
Oh, people aren't going to get it.
5 other people.
They're not going to get the gimmick. Yeah, all right. That's true. That's true.
I mean, Rich, it was 35 years ago.
It was quite a while ago. And yeah, when this decidedly not Italian man walks out, they might be slightly confused.
They might not get the gimmick.
Yeah.
It's a different era. It's a different time. I think a black guy pretending to be Italian would still fly now, though. That's not dated, right?
No, not when the team is like not when the team is like very clearly like a joke.
Tommy Rich. I mean, the whole thing is
right,
none
Tommy
of them are
Rich
Italian.
Also, right. That's the gimmick.
Except for Little Guido, like Ulf Herman, who was
right, not Italian.
Ulf Herman, who was known as Herman the German and billed from Hamburg, Italy, was part of the FBI at one point.
Right, right.
That's kind of the whole point. But again, it's 30 years ago, and how many people know that?
Right. What's the status of Sal E. Graziano? Is he still alive? I guess I should ask first.
He's got to be dead, right? Heart attack?
That's what I'm wondering. That's why.
Can we even look that up?
I was hoping you knew if Sal E. Graziano was dead. Per Wikipedia, Sal E. Graziano is still alive. That's your guy, right?
Yeah, but again, I think you just go with an Italian guy as opposed to a former authentic member.
Okay. All right.
Because I think, Rich, half the people there at the show might not have been born when the FBI was a thing. It's 30 years ago. Actually, it lasted till the end of ECW, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I
Yeah.
24 years ago. Still a long it's still a quarter century ago.
It's quite a while. Yeah, there are several people listening to the show right now that were not alive the last time the FBI were in.
Well, look, JT Smith would be that's the S tier.
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah, that's Rob Viper on his A game is JT Smith's in there.
You're not getting Tracy Smothers, unfortunately, or he'd be there. Who are the ones that are? It's Little Guido. Who are the ones that are booked?
Little Guido, Tommy Rich, and Tony Mamaluke are all there.
Okay.
So Sal Balobo, tough booking these days.
He's 100% dead.
He is 100% dead. Tough booking these days, so it's not going to be him.
Sally Graziano, I don't think people
somehow still alive. Somehow still alive.
I just don't think people will get it. I don't think it's going to be Big Guido.
Oh, yeah. Who the hell was Big Guido?
Just a big, tall guy.
Was he anything other than
Primo Carnera III on the Indies?
Okay, yeah. That doesn't ring a bell. Yeah.
Is he really related to Primo Carnera, or was that just a gimmick? I think it was just
that I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's probably some obvious Italian wrestler who it wasn't part of the original group. That's what I'm guessing.
Yeah. Who's our default Italian?
I'm trying to think of one.
It's not the fucking pizza guy. He's fully canceled, right? Isn't he? Luigi Primo.
He's not fully canceled. He's not fully canceled.
Okay.
But I tell you what, that'd be Luigi Primo would be.
That's not a bad one.
I would pop
though.
for that.
I would
pop for it.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest. He comes out with the pizza.
Yeah.
I'd pop for that.
I'm trying to think of our Italians. We got Luigi Primo.
Yeah.
We got Vinny Massaro. That could work too.
It could. It could.
It could. I don't know. Yeah. Who's our default Italians? Tony D'Angelo is booked this weekend, so he's out.
Disco Inferno.
Oh, God.
Could you? Okay. How about you have Disco Inferno as the mystery guy? He comes out in he's doing the dance. Everyone's booing him. And then you have 911 come out and chokeslam.
Now we're cooking with gasoline here. Yeah.
You think you get Big Al? Can you book Big Al?
Big Al. Yeah.
Big Al, Tombstone Al. You think you can book him?
Right.
Come out, give the fucking chokeslam, right?
Now
we're just booking shit for. See, you're booking shit for ECW fans now.
Yeah, I know. But isn't that what we're doing? Or no?
You would think. I mean, you're booking the FBI.
Yeah, you're booking the fucking fully blooded Italians. I'm. Someone said Akira Francesco. See, too Italian. Right? They're American Italians.
That's a Rob Bahari booking though.
But it is a Rob Bahari booking. That's not a bad one for Shining Wizard there.
That's a good one. That's a good.
I don't think he's booked anywhere else this weekend. Is he doing
New Japan? No. Sakura Genesis is happening. So he can't be there.
Right. Yeah. Is he on that show? Sakura, yeah, he's on Sakura Genesis, so he's not going to be there.
Yeah, forget it. That's why Moxley's not at Mania Weekend. Is it Moxley at Sakura Genesis?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, he would have been on Bloodsport for sure, at minimum. But that would have been perfect. That's a WrestleCon wrestler, Akira Francesco, no doubt about it. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we don't want to figure it out.
Maybe you know what? It's better just to wait for it to just be JT Smith. So,
oh my God, if
Rob, if you're listening, and I know he does listen, JT Smith, make it happen.
Man, if "Fly Me to the Moon" by Frank Sinatra hits and JT Smith comes walking out.
You know how people always lie about crying about wrestling? I think you would be crying if JT Smith came out there. You know how people every time it's like a match happens, they're like, I'm crying. This match is so good. It's like, all right, no, you're not, but that's all right.
That's some of my favorite live wrestling moments is watching JT Smith in the ECW arena.
Yeah, I think you'd be bawling if one JT Smith came out there.
I hope it's him.
We'll see, but
fingers crossed.
That's the WrestleCon show. And then Dean, we've talked a lot about Dean. There's a great article, great preview up at voicesofwrestling.com. Andrew Sinclair did our preview for Action Wrestling's Dean, and the promoter of Action Wrestling, Matt Griffin, joined Andrew on that and gave him some quotes, talked about booking the show, talked about the reason for the show, all that sort of stuff. It's good that, you know, sometimes wrestling promoters can just be normal human beings and just talk to people about stuff. It was really good. And I know they're going to link up in a couple of weeks to talk about, you know, big picture independent wrestling discussions and all that sort of stuff. So credit to Matt there he reached out to us and said, hey, you know, if you guys want something for this story, let me know. I know you guys are covering this show. I'd love to do it. So yeah, credit to them for doing that. And it looks like a hell of a show. Like we've talked about, I don't know that I'm going to love every match on the show, but I love that the show has purpose, meaning, reason, heart, all that sort of stuff.
There's a vision.
Yeah.
There's a clear vision with the Dean show. So, and the dog collar match is one of my most anticipated matches of the entire
Dean Moser versus Mad Dog Connolly in a dog collar. That's going to absolutely rock.
Yeah. So, you know, and you know, stuff like Thatcher and Makabe. I mean, that's not for me, but is there a more fucking DVR Dean match than that? I mean, that's what I mean when I say there's a vision for the show. And from that standpoint, it feels like one of the most unique shows of the weekend. You're not getting a bunch of repeat bookings of the same old people, and every match on it serves a purpose towards the vision of the show. So from that standpoint, it's just a shame that show, WrestleCon, and DDT are all at the same time.
Yeah,
it's crazy that there's like 6 shows I really want to see, and 3 of them are running against each other. But so Thursday, I'm going to watch, obviously, Defy, just to get people set for the first piece of WrestleMania audio. It's going to have the Defy review, the Labor of Love, Sean Henderson presents Euphoria, and the Bloodsport show. Those 3 will be on the review 1,000%. So after Bloodsport ends, I'm going to do a quick audio reviewing those 3 and maybe anything else I'm able to catch. We'll see. And then obviously we have the live audio.
Not live. I don't think we're doing that live. We're just doing
no, not
recording.
Live. I'm sorry. Yeah. And then you and I have another audio coming Thursday night covering everything else, depending on what we get watched. Mm-hmm. So we're still working out who's watching what.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. It's going to be a night of decision because things are going to be on. Yeah. It's all those things are right up against each other. So it sucks. Yeah.
It's really hard with the schedule, but we will figure it out. And then the JCW and GCW versus the World is at midnight. That'll get watched, and we'll work that into one of the Saturday audios. Same thing with all the midnight shows.
Yeah, or the Friday audio. We could probably loop that in if we.
That's what I meant. I got my days mixed up. Yeah, but all the midnight shows are going to get watched because they're all decent shows
for sure.
The Friday midnight show is what? It's
Friday midnight is
For the Culture.
Yeah, for the culture. Yeah.
Saturday midnight is the clusterfuck. Right? So
correct. Yeah.
So versus the World, For the Culture, and Clusterfuck. Those are some of the more high profile shows. They're all going to get watched and they'll get reviewed at some point. Look, it's going to be a mess, but we're going to do it. And we're going to review everything we can.
A fucking
Watch
way.
and review everything we can.
Find a fucking way for sure. Right. So that is WrestleMania weekend. We'll obviously keep you abreast of everything going on this weekend, but plenty of coverage up at voicesofwrestling.com. Plenty of coverage here available on Flagship Patreon already. But let's get to a couple of these shows we wanted to review. We watched these Great shows across the world this week. So at least wanted to talk about as many of them as we possibly can. Let's start out with the CMLL show. This was from Friday night, and the main event, much talked about main event, Blue Panther, Mystico, Ultimo Guerrero, and Volador Jr. versus the Blackpool Combat Club. Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, Jon Moxley, and Matt Sydal filling in for an injured Wheeler Yuta. Now, this match, the atmosphere of this match was fucking phenomenal. You know that, like, I was talking about occasionally I have, like, FOMO about being in wrestling crowds. Like, a lot of these times I'm like, whatever. You know, better to be at home, better to be doing the show, you know, and being able to do an audio show afterwards or whatever. Like, these AEW pay-per-views happen, and I'm like, man, I really wish I could be there. Like, Revolution. I would have loved to be at Revolution, but it's just financially easier and makes more sense for me just to be here to do an instant reaction live immediately afterwards or whatever. If they're in Chicago, yeah, I'm going to go to the shows in Chicago. But for most... I was watching this Arena Mexico show, and I was like, fuck, I should have found any way in the world to get to Arena Mexico for this, because it was like, did you get that same feeling with this atmosphere? It was just unbelievable for this match.
For the whole show.
Really, it was a hot show. It was a great show, too.
This is a show of the year contender.
Absolutely. 100%.
This show was great. I mean, first of all, everybody had their working shoes on, because I think everybody on this show recognized that building was literally packed to the fucking rafters. Every seat was filled in the building, okay? And that's been a hot building every Friday for over a year now. But that was a literal fucking sellout in the true sense, where you could not get a ticket, because we talked to people who could not get tickets. Ricardo Gallegos from the site, he's like, man, I slept on this show and now I can't get a ticket.
Right. He said, shit, I wish there was something like StubHub in Mexico, because there's really not, and I can't get to this fucking show. So
right. And I don't know if he met up with a scalper outside.
I think he found a way in. I think he was in that building no matter what. He was going to, I think he just said, I'm going to go to the building and see what the fuck happens. And I'm pretty sure he got in somehow.
Well, good for him. The crowd was red hot. And here's the thing about the crowd. A lot of times the Arena Mexico crowds, it's a casual crowd. They're not necessarily wrestling fans. They're there to have a good time. They're tourists. You always hear about the tourists. And they're just people getting drunk, having fun at a wrestling show, which is great, right? And they root for the Technicos. They boo the Rudos. This crowd, while I'm sure it had an element of that, was also packed with wrestling fans. These people knew the storylines. They knew the moves, because they were popping at the Averno Cavanario match. They knew Cavanario's finish. And they knew that, like, Averno was using, like, they knew all these things because they were popping at
I love that match, by the way. I love that
so
match.
Fucking
Yeah,
good.
It was really good.
That match was so fucking good. So, and when Dorada and Rocky versus Atlantis and Sobrano, and, you know, the heels teaming with the faces, the fans understood what was going on. So this was a packed crowd, a hot crowd, a smart crowd in the wrestling sense. These were wrestling fans. Everyone on the show had their working shoes, because they knew packed crowd, bunch of Americans watching because of the AEW wrestlers. This is going to be ultimately going to end up being one of their biggest shows of the year. My God, did this show fucking rock from top to bottom. I mean, I didn't think there was a bad match on the show. What'd you think of the 4-way minis match? Because I thought that was good too. I thought
that was the worst match on the show. With that said, like, it wasn't brutal. It wasn't bad.
Right.
I just thought I just thought it was not good to okay.
Clearly not as good as everything else on the show. But that was the worst match, and I thought it was fine.
I would agree with you that was the worst match on the show, and I think it was still fine.
Yeah. But those guys were clearly not the workers that everybody else was on the show, and it kind of stood out because of that, but the match was fine. Like,
and the crowd was into it too, because it's a mask match, so the crowd is into it, and yeah, somebody got unmasked or whatever, and so there's always an emotion there too, even if the work itself wasn't real great, bell to bell. It still had a hot crowd that was invested in everything that was happening in it.
Now, I don't like the psychology behind, if you pin someone, that person is out. I feel like if you pin someone, you should get to leave, because, like, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I thought the psychology was backwards, but I guess the idea is these guys all hate each other, and they want to take a mask, even if it means risking their own mask. I guess that's the idea behind it. So it ended up being Mini Olympico who lost his mask, but the match was fine. But everything else was like good to great. And there were matches that were great. including the main event, to circle back and answer your question. I mean, the heat was off the charts. Everybody was jacked up. And I just think it's hilarious how they got around everything by doing a 1-fall match and making Matt Sydal the captain. So they eliminated all problems.
Yep.
Which is preposterous.
They said, and they even said before, that all matches that are not title matches are 2 out of 3 falls or whatever, except for this one. He's the captain. For this one, it's like, yeah, we're not taking 2 falls. Because at first Matt Sydal got pinned, and I was like, wow, that was a long first fall. And then they're all celebrating. I'm like, oh, never mind. All right. That's it then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny because we're trying to figure out, who's going to be the captain, but then they just fucking made Sydal the captain and just made it 1 fall. And then they had Sydal. Did you watch the promos they cut before the match?
Yes.
All right. So they kind of explained it too. They had Sydal. They had each guy come out one at a time. And Sydal came out and he was like, I can't wait to get my hands on my career-long rival, Mystico. To kind of justify him being the captain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which actually, let's see how many
captain.
times him and old Mystico got in the ring together. All levels of Mystico. I guess I'll look up.
It'll come up.
I'll look up Sin Cara as well to see.
It'll come up. It'll just come up, I think. Or maybe not.
So Mystico, he did face him on Rampage in February, and Mystico beat him. So I guess he was upset about that, possibly.
Yeah.
Sin Cara, let's see. Sin Cara also beat Evan Bourne on WWE Monday Night Raw number 944, June 27, 2011.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So a lot of history, and that is the same. That is the Mystico Sin Cara. So,
you know what? I appreciate them.
Yeah, who cares? It's wrestling.
Trying,
make it up. Who fucking cares?
At least trying to make sense of it, because there's no other justification for him
right,
to be
for Bryan Danielson and Claudio and John Moxley to say, yeah, sure, yeah, be our captain, man. Yeah, go ahead.
So they claim that they're rivals to justify him being the captain, and
whatever.
Of course, you're just waiting for him to take the fall. But look, the finish was great. Danielson hits the Basiku, or however you say that, knee on Blue Panther. And then Sydal saves Danielson, but then it ends up sacrificing himself, and he gets caught in the La Mystica, and he fucking taps. And then
taps immediately, yeah. Great finish. The crowd knew it, too. As he's twisting around, the crowd knows it, and they're like, oh, yeah, it's fucking over. And he drops him down. Matt Sydal immediately pins or immediately taps, and it's over. Yeah,
but the match had incredible heat. This is a fucking awesome match. I'd go like 4.5 if I had to rate it.
Yeah. I'm exactly with you. I don't think it's a 5-star match. I've seen people do that because I don't know if the bell-to-bell was that great, but god damn it, the atmosphere. Just the entrances coming out and the crowd chanting yes along with Bryan, and Bryan playing along with that, and then Moxley coming through the crowd in Arena Mexico. It's just like, yeah, there was something special about that night.
Yeah, I thought the work was pretty great, honestly. And I just thought that it was fun watching Claudio and Moxley, work the style.
Claudio was so good.
He's just,
right.
He's
Moxley was
good.
fine. Claudio, you were like, this guy should be in Mexico full time. Like, this guy should just leave and go to Mexico. He'd be the biggest fucking star there. He's so good in that style.
I mean, he very clearly would be an all-time base, right?
Yeah.
With his strength and his size and his ability and the fact that he's such a great worker and is always in the right place at the right time.
He takes a good arm drag. He gives a good arm drag. He's so good at taking an arm drag, sliding outside the ring, and then a guy diving onto him. He was just fucking perfect at it. And it's like, it seems easy. It seems so easy to say, yeah, you take an arm drag, you slide out of the ring, and then, Mystico is going to dive onto you. But like, watch Claudio do it, and you're like, yeah, that's just better than anybody that could ever do it. Like, that's just a fucking phenomenal.
And they didn't waste no time booking Danielson Blue Panther.
Hell no, they didn't. This Friday, man. We got to find a way to watch that. We got to find a way to watch that on our Supercard of Honor thing. Again,
that's like getting lost in the fucking shuffle. It's like there's so much going on, But just a phenomenal main event, but really a phenomenal card. I mean, we'll just go right back to the top where Magnus and Ruggiero again, successfully defend these tag team titles against Berlante Jr. and Neon. What did you think of Neon? I don't know if you've ever seen him before.
I think this is the first time I saw him. I thought he was okay.
Really? I thought he did some incredible dives.
Yeah, I saw people say that as well. I don't know if maybe I didn't appreciate all that much. I don't know. I thought he was good, but I thought it was just kind of like, I don't know. I felt like he was just kind of bouncing around the ring and doing stuff to do stuff. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It didn't. I think it was good, but I don't know if it was.
A lot of people think Futuro is better, and I really wish it would have been both of them. Oh, you've seen Futuro. Okay.
I've seen him. Yeah. I've definitely seen him. I don't know. I didn't love Neon here. I didn't love him.
See, I thought he showed out. I thought he was good. I thought Brillante Jr., he's kind of just a guy, but he was fine. And I think Magnus and Vegito are a really fun team.
I thought they were very good. I think they have a good tag team. They move around the ring in good sequence. Yeah, I love those guys for sure.
Sneaky charisma.
Sneaky
charisma. This match, Afinje and Zandokan Jr.
Yeah. I mean, fuck, this is great.
They fucking killed it. I mean, Zandokan is just so charismatic. Look, that guy I think is a future star.
Oh, he owns the room. He's got it. He came out there and it was like, this guy owns Arena Mexico right now. That's an it factor that, like, if you're owning that building, you can own any building in the world. You know what I mean?
And he's earned his way to Arena Mexico, after toiling away, got some opportunities. And now, look, they put him in such a high profile spot in a title match on a show like this, on one of the biggest shows of the year, which shows you that they believe in him now, which is great. And I think if he's a guy you can get into America, I think he'd be perfect. He's got the size, right? He's a little bit taller than these other guys. He's got charisma. He's got a gimmick that Americans would, much like Hechicero, I think he'd be more over with Americans than maybe he ever will be with Mexicans.
I agree. Yeah, the look, his presence, his size too. I think because I don't know how tall he is exactly or what they exactly list him at, but he feels big.
Taller
he comes across taller. He comes across like a big guy that I think you could easily slide him into any promotion in the world, and he's going to get over to some degree. Did you know that he just began his wrestling career in 2019?
That's crazy. He's is it possible he was doing a different gimmick, real low key?
I have no idea. Yeah, this is because I can't believe that either.
More experienced.
I can't believe that either. Yeah, I mean he was El Hijo del Bucanero Jr. for a while. I don't know if that's the other gimmick, but yeah, that's what he was doing in 2019 per cage match.
It'd be a similar gimmick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I have to check with Cubs. He would know. But yeah, maybe he's a young kid. I don't know. I mean, that's possible.
If that's really when he began his wrestling career, then I'm with you that this guy is going to be a superstar.
That's what I mean. And if he has that crowd connection already, right? Like, that's really impressive if he's that new and he's already that. Yeah. But, you could tell by this second match, okay, this show's going to fucking rock because this crowd's hot. Everybody's got the working shoes on. And then Averno gets in there with Cavanario. And Averno is just, taking this beat down. And, this match was only 10 minutes, but they crammed so much story into 10 minutes that this may have been my second favorite match of the night, behind the main event. And as I said, Cavanario went for his finish and Averno got out of there. Then Averno tried to give him his own finish back. And this was just so smartly worked, and Averno, I'm thinking now that he's got the longer hair, is he like setting himself up for a hair match?
Yeah, he looks like a guy that's about to get a haircut here in the summer, right? He's about to make a lot of money to get this haircut.
He grew out his hair, He normally has the shorter cropped hair, like the spike haircut or whatever, like the fucking faux hawk sometimes I guess he has. But I noticed that he's been growing out his hair. He might be setting himself up to get a trim.
Smart.
But
nothing you could. It's so great that in Mexico you could just grow your hair and then just like you need to get a haircut, and instead of paying money for a haircut, you sell out a fucking building to get your haircut. Right, yeah. You get paid. It's incredible. How great is that?
And it's a big show where the guys are working hard because Cavanario busted out the top rope dive to the floor.
And the crowd cared about what's another thing too? The crowd cared about these title matches. Like there's sometimes you watch a CMLL or sometimes you watch Lucha, and like we in America think of titles as being these big important things and stuff. And a lot of times in especially in CMLL throughout its history, it's like the titles kind of mean that much. You know what I mean? They're here or there. AAA, of course, the titles mean almost nothing, like quite literally nothing in some cases. Even the world titles quite literally mean nothing sometimes. These crowds were just fucking I mean, when Averno won this title, it was like, oh my god, he's done it. Like that's how invested they were. Like you said, it was just like these fans all came and cared about what they were watching, not like you said the normal kind of tourism Friday crowd that are just there to see Lucha Libre because they're tourism guys.
And listen,
go see Lucha Libre. Yeah,
those crowds are good in their own way too.
Absolutely,
because they're always rowdy and they're a lot of fun. But this crowd was different in that you could tell they knew what was going on. It was a smart. There were smarks there.
Right. They cared about the guys. They cared about the titles. They cared about the matches. They cared about the results of the matches. They weren't, They
knew the finishers. Yeah. They knew the moves. They knew the signature spots. They knew the back. They were into the wrestlers. They weren't just into having fun on their vacation. And, they're both hot crowds, but in different ways. And it's like the perfect storm when you have the mix of that, like you had here, packed to the rafters with wrestling fans, mixed with that rowdy Arena Mexico atmosphere. This was so much fun. This, it's a shame that their service is so expensive, number one, and tricky to manipulate, number two, because this really could have been a show that is the start of something. Like if people were parachuting in to watch the AEW guys, there's no way that they weren't blown away by how great this show was, and that might have been an eye opener for people who are like, oh, I've been hearing about the CMLL. I've been seeing it on AEW, and all right, here's a chance. How could you not come away impressed? Whereas if you shoot in for a random Friday show, you might get like a lousy one. They're not all winners. But if this was someone's first exposure, I mean, this is the kind of show that creates fans.
Oh yeah, this is the kind of show that you're now every Friday locked in, or you're buying tickets to watch Lucha, and you're like, you are completely devoted. We had somebody that said, "Are you guys going to do a yearbook on CMLL? I need it now." And I was like, "Well, I don't know about that," but yeah, this is that kind of show that like completely will turn people into fans of CMLL week after week after week.
I wish this had been as accessible as Wrestle Kingdom 9.
Yeah,
that was the one with Ross, right?
Yes.
Whatever one that was. I think it was 9. That if this had been as accessible as that, you're talking about a potential game changer of a show for them. I don't know how many people shelled out whatever it is, the $35 to subscribe. That's a lot to ask for an unfamiliar product. It's a lot to ask. So you have to stream and everything else. Whereas Wrestle Kingdom 9, it was on everyone's cable system. You just had to press a button. And you're familiar with Jim Ross, and you're familiar with some of the, Chris Jericho. This is, you have the AEW guys and then an unfamiliar style. And because I'm talking about people who are coming in with a blank slate, not people like that are listening to this. I think a good portion of our listeners would at minimum be familiar and not be scared by a new style or something like that. But some people would be. But if this show had been as accessible as wrestling, I think it, could be, but we'll say nothing but positive reviews. The women's match, they worked their ass off.
They did. I don't know if this was meant to happen, but they played Willow Nightingale's music first. And then just played it through all the entrances. They're like, this is a very good song. We're just gonna keep playing this. And you can tell Tessa Blanchard was kind of annoyed because it's like I gotta come out to Will, because anybody else coming out to Willow Nightingale's song kind of looks ridiculous. Because Tessa Blanchard's out there with her big giant robe that's got the faces of the people they were honoring on the day or whatever. She comes in with this she's got diamonds and bedazzled or whatever. And it's like Willow's song. It's just like the high face disco song. Music. Right. It's just wild. I loved it. But yeah, that was they worked their asses off. Yeah, I thought I had no complaints whatsoever. I thought 2 out of 3 falls. They worked really hard, and Willow. I think acclimated herself well. I thought Tessa looked great. Yeah, there's not much more I could say about it other than it was really, really good.
How fun was the semi-main event?
My match of the night. I love the main event. My match of the night was the semi-main.
Well, you go first then.
I went 4.5 on both. But just the aspect of, if people do not know, we've talked about this before, but these are kind of, opponents on the same team with one another. So there's always this weird
tournament.
It's the tournament. And there's this weird dichotomy of, okay, well, you guys want to win the tournament, but you got to be with your enemy. And in this case, you might be facing a guy that you're aligned with. So there's a little bit of this hold on a minute. Like 2 guys will get in the ring at a certain time and then kind of look at each other and be like, yeah, fuck it. Yeah, whatever. And so there's always that push and pull of, are they going to face each other? Will the two teams kind of get along? It's the will they coexist, but done, without being boring and overwrought and dumb and annoying. But done.
And it's a yearly tournament concept, and they build anniversary matches off of it. So it's kind of like it's like a yearly thing.
And what I'll say about this match, it was 18 minutes, and it was just the bell rang and go, 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 boom, boom, boom. These guys didn't stop for a second during this match. There was something happening, some sort of action happening, somebody putting somebody in a hold, somebody doing it was just nonstop boom, boom, boom action. Dorada and Rocky Romero get the win, and just the crowd was just electric for this thing. And Soberano, who I love, was just bouncing all over the ring, looking great. Atlantis, I thought, looked great. Rocky continues to be one of my favorite wrestlers in the world. And Dorada was probably, to me, the 4 out of 4 in this match, and that's not taking anything away from him. Like, he was really fucking great in this match, too. I just thought those other guys, particularly Rocky and Soberano, I thought were just amazing in this match. A lot of moving parts, a lot of things happening, all of it making sense, nonstop action. What more can you ask for out of wrestling?
Yeah, and then the finish where Soberano screws his own guy, and Dorada, like, he won, but he's not like thrilled the way he won.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
Rocky doesn't care. He's just shaking his arms, doing,
no,
he doesn't. He's like, oh yeah, brother, I won. Yeah.
Because early in the match, there was that great spot where Rocky and Soberano looked around and they hugged.
Yeah, right.
You know, like we're both assholes. Let's hug this out, you know? And so you have this dynamic where both teams are trying to win, but also, you know, they don't like each other. Like, Soberano doesn't like Atlanta. I'm sure Soberano and Atlantis are going to have a singles match, probably at the anniversary show or on some big show. So it was just so much fun. Do you ever stop and think, like, Rocky Romero is legitimately one of the top heels on the planet. He is a main eventer. He's a main event heel who works on top in front of sellout crowds. Like, Rocky Romero, like, he was one of the top heels in the world all of last year. Like, legitimately, and still is today. Like, and he still gets crazy heat. He's over like a motherfucker every time he's in this building. You know? And this is like the run of his career. There's no question about it. He's been around forever, and he's done everything. And he's been in New Japan forever. He was an ROH guy forever.
Oh, I was watching him in Ring of Honor 15 years ago. At no point watching him 15 years ago at the Frontier Fieldhouse did I say, yeah, this guy's going to be, main eventing Arena Mexico and be a legit fucking star with a capital S in Mexico.
He's a legitimate drawing heel for one of the for the second hottest company in the world.
Yeah.
Think about that. There's no company in the world other than WWE hotter than CMLL is right now. And he's the top heel. And has been for over a year. Rocky Romero. And oh, by the way, he's getting these guys booked all over the place. Whether it's New Japan, AEW, MLW, indie shots. He's the liaison for all this shit too. Acting as the mover while he's a main event heel in the promotion itself.
And doing a great job of being that main event heel. I mean, he rips off the mask of Atlantis Jr. here. Fucking great. Soberano just sends Atlantis up to the Wolves and says, fuck you, just go out there and do it. Rocky takes his mask off. And then my favorite part, too, is when those guys won, Rocky and Soberano just broke the trophies. Fuck these trophies. We don't give a shit about this stuff. Fuck this. They go, yeah, all right, fuck it. Who cares? Break the trophies. Get out of the ring. Like, he's fucking assholes. These fucking rudos. Fuck
the
you.
Mask off, then leaves in the fan. Yeah, it's just.
They hold the trophies up and like, I fucking need these dumb trophies. Who gives a shit?
And Dorada's mannerisms were great. He's like, I won, but I didn't want to win like that. I'm always the least impressed person with him. I don't know what it is.
I'm with you too. Yeah. I think he was 4 out of 4 in this match. I think he was the least impressive guy in this match.
Like, I think he's good in everything. And I think he's clearly a prospect. There's no doubt about it. And look, he's 22 years old and he's already over and he does some, but I'm never as impressed with him as everybody else is. I don't know what it is. It's like kind of like Bandito. I've always felt the same, like with Bandito when he was getting that mega push in PWG and he was like the hottest thing on the indies. And it's like, I would watch Bandito and feel like I was missing out on something. I'd be like, all right, this guy's good, but I don't think he's like spectacular like everybody else thinks he is. That's kind of the same vibes I have with this guy. Like, I find so many other people way more interesting in this promotion than I do Dorada. And it's like, am I missing? Like, I feel bad about it. I'm like, what is it I'm not seeing that everybody else is seeing? I don't know. But what an incredible show. So
yeah, all that, and then the main event was AEW versus CMLL in fucking fire, hot, like literally on fire. The roof being blown off of Arena Mexico during this match as it's going on.
I'll say this about Rocky too. I don't know if CMLL catches on as kind of this cult thing in America if it's not him in that spot last year.
I agree.
Because he kind of provided an entryway for people. Oh, Rocky Romero, I know him. everybody's hyping up this match and Rocky Romero's in it. All right, I'll give it a try.
Right. It's not Averno. If Averno was in there.
Right. It's not another lucha guy. Right.
Right. I agree.
So I think from that standpoint, in terms of, and then look what that did. Like, I was watching CMLL early last year, immediately identified, okay, this is going to be the IT promotion. This has a chance to be the IT promotion this year. And then it turned out to be. And then places like our show were covering it all year because it was really great and it's sustained. And we would have been on top of it, whether it was Rocky or a luchador. But I don't know if it would have the same sort of cult feeling it has around it right now.
No, you got to bridge that gap. You have to bridge that gap some way. And someone like Rocky is perfect.
Right. So I think he deserves credit for that too. As being sort of that bridge for a lot of people who otherwise may not have even bothered trying, even if they heard something was getting massively hyped, if it was just two guys they never heard of. So I think that's important too. But what a great show. We'll see what's next for them. We'll see if it makes a tangible business difference for them in America, which again shouldn't be their primary focus anyway, but it never hurts. It absolutely never hurts. And then we go from there. I saw someone in the chat saying, could this be their When Worlds Collide? I think it could have been if it was more accessible.
Right. It wasn't as accessible as those were.
When Worlds Collide, and that, and I was around for that. I mean, I was a fucking teenager who ordered that shit on pay-per-view and watched it and was blown away. And I was trading for lucha tapes the next fucking week. That's the effect that show had on me. It made me a lucha fan. When I was I would watch lucha stuff and take lucha tapes if people had them. But when that show happened, I was like, okay, now I'm all in. And I got super into it for a few years there. So anyway, yeah, I think it could have been, but it just wasn't as accessible as that show was. All right, we do have to get to some other stuff though.
Yeah, so, let's go quickly here. A Triple Crown title change at All Japan Pro Wrestling's Dream Power Series, March 30th. Main event match was Triple Crown match. Yuma Anzai defeating Katsuhiko Nakajima 20 minutes, 12 seconds to win the Triple Crown title. Yuma Anzai getting the big win, huge upset over Nakajima. Now, I really, really liked the match. I did not like the finish, though. What did you think? And then we can talk a little bit more in detail here. Love the match. Love the setup for the match. Love Nakajima's title reign. I'm fine with Anzai winning the title. Did not love the finish, though.
So I went in spoiled. And I was expecting to not like how he won the title because, okay, Nakajima runs through all the other top guys in the company, and now the rookie's going to beat him. The young kid is going to beat him. I was like, I'm probably not going to be down with the story they're telling here.
Right. And I didn't mind that aspect of it, by the way.
See, that would have bothered me. But then when I watched the match, I fucking loved it because, okay, so the match starts and Nakajima is just like taking him lightly and Anzai's having his way. And Nakajima just has this look on his face like, this fucking punk kid, right? Then, for the rest of the match, Nakajima just beats the living shit out of him.
Some of those kicks were the loudest kicks I've ever heard in my entire fucking life. Just
killing him. And, like, to not just win the match, but to teach him a lesson. Like, who the fuck are you to think that you can hang with me, right? And Anzai is so great in this match.
I agree.
Oh my God, was he great in this match, selling and putting this beating over. And it's a tricky thing to do because you can overdo it in a situation like this.
Yeah, you can over scream or overdo the I'm so in pain, but he did it. He screamed and yelled at the right times. He winced at the right times. He did everything perfect.
Your selling could end up being cartoonish if you're not careful.
Now, I don't know how much of it, I mean, given how loud some of these chops and kicks were, I don't know how much of that was selling and how much of that was motherfucker. That really hurt. But you know what? Hey, that's wrestling. That's the art of wrestling right there.
But he walked that line so well. And the way he was staggering around the ring and using the ropes to stop himself from falling down and just collapsing under the pain, and Nakajima just beating the shit out of him. And then Nakajima goes for a belly to back or something, and the kid flips out of it, hits the jumping knee, and then hits a suplex of his own, a German of his own, a captured German to beat him. And it's presented, and this is probably what you didn't like. It was presented as a total fluke.
Yes.
Like he survived. Nakajima got a little sloppy one time, got stunned with a knee to the face, and then got hit with the German. But see, I liked the finish. Better than if Anzai would have just overcome the beating and made the comeback and beat him. That would have bothered me because that makes all your other top guys look bad because Nakajima beat all your other top guys. This win by Anzai comes off like a shocking upset, but Nakajima didn't even like Nakajima he was like, oh man, I can't believe I got caught. And then he just like stood up, he shook his head, he had that smirk on his face, like this little motherfucker. The next time I get in there with him, I'm gonna just fucking kill him and make sure he's dead.
I think that's where I have a little bit of a disconnect because I didn't think Nakajima had enough of that. Everything else up to that was fine. And even if he got up and Nakajima had a look of like, what the fuck just happened? I can't believe it. He just kind of rolled out of the ring, smirked, and then walked away.
Well, see, he didn't do the NXT shocked face.
No, I don't want NXT shocked face, but I would like a little bit of like, I just lost the Triple Crown title. You know what I mean?
There was enough of that for me. See, I thought he did.
I don't know. I did not think there was.
He
enough.
came across like his body language and his mannerisms to me were of someone who knew that he fucking blew it because he spent too much time trying to prove a point when he should have just won the match, and that he was like, oh motherfucker, and he was just disappointed in himself, but knowing that if he gets another chance, he's just going to destroy the kid. That's how it came across to me. So we're going to have to disagree. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And I wouldn't have liked it as much if it was just a straight match and Anzai won. That would have bothered me.
Oh, I agree. No, everything up to the finish. By the way, I'm not trying to take away. I thought the match was phenomenal. I thought the finish was phenomenal. I thought everything. When I say I didn't like the finish, I didn't like that. Yeah, he hits the German out of nowhere, hits the big knee. Okay, that's the first move the first offensive move that Anzai has done in the last 17 minutes basically is the knee and the German. And he gets the 1, 2, 3, and I just thought everything from that point I didn't love. I thought Nakajima just kind of rolled out of the way, kind of had a smirk on his face, and then just kind of left the ring. And I
didn't think Nakajima sold it well enough.
I don't think he sold it well enough. And I don't need shocked NXT face. Oh no, I can't believe it, and slamming the match
on
or whatever.
The head.
Yeah, I don't need any of that stuff. But I could have used a little bit more. Are you fucking kidding me? I just lost to this kid, or a little bit more energy out of Nakajima. I thought he just kind of smirked and rolled out of the ring, and from all intents and purposes, looks like he rolled out of the territory too. So that yeah,
exactly. Well, that's the next conversation. Is he gone? Is he not gone? What's going on?
I think he's gone.
So, we talked about this possibly being a pit stop before he goes to New Japan. And at the time we were like, nah, we'd rather he be in All Japan. And I still feel that way.
I still 100% feel that way.
Because I feel like what I want to see is him beat Anzai in a squash to win the title back. Because I think that accomplishes two things. Number one, it gives Anzai the short Triple Crown run to establish him as a top guy because he won the title, showing nothing but heart, which is exactly what you want out of him, right? And number two, it tells a good story and it gets the title back on the guy that you want either Miyahara or Aoyagi to beat. So you're accomplishing everything if Nakajima gets a rematch and just destroys him and beats him. The problem is Nakajima going to stick around? I feel like I'd be open to him going to New Japan because I think New Japan is in a dire situation at the top of the card and could use any injection of fresh blood that they need.
He adds a lot of juice to them for sure.
He adds a ton of juice to them. It's LIJ and a pile of nothing at the top of the card in New Japan right now. It is dire at the top. Okay? Even the one young guy who's being elevated is LIJ. Tsuji. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's nothing else there. They need something. So it wouldn't be the worst thing for New Japan if he went there.
And then immediately joins House of Torture, of course.
Of course, yeah.
Right.
Of course. Yeah. But it's like, but yes, I would prefer he stay and win the title back. And then tell whatever story you were going to tell. Now, the Galaxy Brain theory is that Rossi Ogawa is building up the NXT New Japan in the shadows, recruiting all the women, Nakajima comes with him, and whoever else the fuck, whatever Japanese people.
Yeah. Thanks. I hate it.
Already has in the contract.
I hate it a lot.
Now, that's something that's just a harebrained theory right now. You can't completely write it off, but who knows? But let's just set that aside for now. I hope he stays. I hope Nakajima stays. If he leaves, I don't think this is a great way to leave, losing on a fluke. I don't love that. Because this is not a win that puts over Anzai as like
the new guy.
Someone. Right, exactly. It shows that he's in the mix now, is what this win does. And there's nothing wrong with those kind of wins. To say, all right, this guy's in the mix now. He can do it. And he was so great in the match. I mean, it's impossible not to rally behind him. He was incredible in his role. I mean, this is really one of the better singular bell-to-bell performances I've seen in some time out of a pro wrestler from that standpoint, telling a story. Because he was phenomenal in selling this beating. So now we just have to wait and see how it plays out. Maybe on another show, we'll have more time to really flesh out what's next for Nakajima, or maybe we'll know by then, but I saw the rest of the show. It really wasn't that great of a show. Voodoo Murder, the Saitos won the tag titles back from Hideki and Suwama. A nothing match. Totally skippable. A complete bore. In my opinion, it didn't have that fun factor that a lot of the Saito matches have. Surprise, surprise, Hideki Suzuki was involved. I mean,
Yeah.
I know people think it's a bit, but this match sucked. Okay, it was just a nothing match. Rising Hayato Musashi again. Musashi's a guy who, I really thought that Musashi impressed when New Japan brought him in for a couple tours. And I was like, man, this is someone who they might want to consider bringing in. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. But this was another match that didn't have any energy. I can't recommend going back to watch it. It just kind of existed. It wasn't as listless as the tag title match, but it was nothing special at all. I did like how all the other champions came out and endorsed Anzai at the end of the show. I thought that was a nice touch.
That was cool. Yeah.
In the post match, all the champions came out, and you didn't really know why they were coming out, but then it was the Saitos and Rising Hayato, and I think Dan Tamura, who had won the All Asia titles earlier with Hikaru Sato. They beat Onita and whoever that fucking geek is he teams with, Toy or whatever, however you fucking say that.
Yeah.
That match was fucking abysmal.
Yeah,
exploding barbed wire.
I wasn't gonna watch that.
It was exploding barbed wire bat match, and it was just, Onita needs to go away. It's how
you didn't really like Onita that much in 30 years ago.
Not really, and now it's like it's just a total waste of my time.
Yeah.
But no, but the Noah show blew away the All Japan show, and we should get that in quickly. The Noah show was like a hair below the CMLL show. It was fucking great.
Alan Cunahan has told me I need to watch this show. It is.
He did. See, that's my man. Alan knows this show rules.
He added me. Well, I was going to say he added me at like 4 a.m. on Discord, but it was like a normal hour for him in Ireland. But I wake up to a notification. I'm like, what the fuck is this notification in the Noah channel? Like, what in the world happened in the Noah channel overnight that I need to deal with here? And it's Alan saying, Rich. Watch the Noah show all the way. It's the Rich Craich special. Everything was good. It's like, I was like, all right. And now you're saying the same thing. So that's two endorsements that tells me I got to watch this fucking show.
I thought I was going to be on an island. No, this show fucking rocks.
No, smart wrestling people think this is a great show, top to bottom.
Yeah, now look, Masa Kitamiya versus Taniguchi, perfectly fine opener, especially by Taniguchi standards. But after that, Katoge and Goshi Ozaki over Takashi Sugiura and Hajime Ohara. Katoge busted out the headbutt in the finish. He headbutts O'Hara. And then he wins. And there's this great visual as they put up his nameplate and his music is playing where the blood's trickling down his face from the headbutt. Oh, forget it. From that point on, I was so into this fucking show. Because you know him with those headbutts. I mean, he's going to pay for that later. But when he bust out those headbutts. And then it was Anthony Green, Daiki Inaba, perfectly acceptable singles match. My man Daga, I don't know what got into him, but he's like a different wrestler.
He's
these
good.
Days.
No, he's good now. Me and Grant Akuma declared him good, officially good now.
Yeah, him and Super Crazy and Ogawa, they always throw in these 6-mans with Ninja Mac, Alejandro and Miyawaki on the other side. those are always solid. You know what you're going to get with that. I have to put over Akuma when he talked about Hajime Ohara and the Hajime Ohara LJ Cleary match that you guys reviewed.
Oh, how good was that? Yeah, what we would have never gotten that. Like us, for as much as we watch and know, like we would have never said, yeah, LJ Cleary had trouble, working with Ohara, because a lot of people are going to have trouble working with Ohara unless you work the style that, oh yeah, I also work because I trained with the same guy that Ohara trained with. It's like, yeah,
it was so insightful.
Yeah, where would you get that other than from a wrestler?
And Ohara really does work a unique style, and they don't push him anymore, and he's always a prelim guy. But Noah is really just a mishmash of styles, and you get a little bit of every kind of style on these shows. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. I thought that was so insightful. He brought a completely different element to some of those reviews. So then, okay, so the business end. Kaito Kiyomiya and Oiwa. Okay, they win the tag league. Kiyomiya gets hurt. They don't get their title match, right? So they don't work the show in Yokohama. So they wrestle Kano and Yu Owada, the young kid, right?
Yeah.
And Kiyomiya and Kano. I mean, this match, now this you got to see. You got to watch this match. Because Kiyomiya and Kano are having one more singles match. That's how they're billing it. They're going to do it one more time, and I love that series between those two.
Oh, God, yeah.
You do, too. And this was kind of like a prelude for that. And holy shit, was this intense. Because Kano. I mean, he don't know how to dial it down. Kiyomiya met his intensity. And obviously Owada was there to fucking lose. But what a fucking match this was to get you all hot and bothered for the fucking singles that's coming. So that's a must watch. Marufuji against Oka Sasaki, who they've been using.
Yeah, I don't think he's very good, but how did he fare here?
So Sasaki is like dominating the match, right? And he's got Marufuji right where he wants him. But crafty old Naomuchi, right? He like pulls the guy. I can't even describe the finish. He like pulls his head between his legs and kicks him in the face and then gives him a fucking cradle and steals the win, which was such a cool story because it was like, the story was, okay, Sasaki not only hung with Marufuji, realistically, he out-wrestled him. That's what you're supposed to think coming out of it. And Marufuji had to find a way to steal it by being a crafty veteran.
Okay.
So it did a ton for Sasaki, more than anything else that has since he's had this little run with him.
I thought Akuma had some great insights on him, too, as somebody who has done, martial arts before and done actual fighting before, saying that Sasaki, one of the things that he might look to do is just be a wrestler more than a fake fighter, because being a fake fighter is kind of hard when you're a real fighter. It's hard to know, all right, I got to pull on that kick. I got to do, just be more of a wrestler. Add, you can do a little bit of your fighting technique type of stuff throughout but try to be a wrestler more than trying to be a fake fighter, because it's really hard when you're a real fighter to go and do, okay, now I'm fake fighting mode. And I thought that was also very insightful too.
Yeah. But in terms of getting him over, I thought this match did a lot for him because he dominated it, and Marufuji, being the slick veteran, found a way to win, quote unquote. But yeah, and then the 6-man Alpha Wolf, Dragon Bane, and Hayata over Jack Morris, Terasuke, and Yohei. Good looking guys. The idea here was to set up what do they call that title? The national title? Let me make sure I get that right. The title that Jack Morris has.
That's right.
The secondary title. National title, yeah. So Hayata scores the pin. Jack Morris goes for like the sit out power bomb or whatever it is. When he lifts up Hayata rakes him in the eyes, right? And then he gives him like this roll up, and they're close to the ropes. And he holds the ropes too as he pins them. So Hayata gets the pin, and this is going to set up a national title match because then Morris takes the mic and just goes ballistic. I want you one-on-one. I'll pull up my title because he's fucking annoyed that this guy stole the win from him. So, but the match itself, okay, Alpha Wolf and Dragon Bane, they are over as like a cult thing in Noah, and they're over with the fans. They're over with the Western fans. Those guys rule. Okay, they rock. This match, though, let me tell you something about this match. Jack Morris was so fucking good in this 6-man match. I'm watching this guy when he came into the company a couple years ago. Remember, he came in, they put him in the fucking Global League or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And we were like, who the fuck? literally no one knew who he was.
Yeah, he looks like an AI generated like professional wrestler. If you told an AI like give me a professional wrestler, it kind of spits out somebody that looks like a Jack Morris.
We're pretty deep in the game. People in our circles are pretty deep. Like virtually no one even knew who this guy was. We're like making the jokes about the baseball pitcher. We're like, who the fuck is
we
this
did
guy?
do probably an hour just talking about Jack Morris the pitcher instead of Jack Morris the wrestler. Yeah,
10-inning World Series game. You know, who could forget?
Because he was in the UK, but he was like in like a part of he was in the UK scene that like nobody listened to this.
He wasn't working like high profile.
Right. Nobody watches. He did like ICW and like just these weird companies in Scotland that like nobody was watching. Nobody was talking about PCW and these weird things that nobody gave a shit about. Nobody talked about.
So this guy comes in, he works the Global League and he's pretty impressive. Like it's okay. He can hang. He's not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So he's been there for like 2 years or whatever it is now. And they put him in the unit with Jake Lee, and he's clearly the number 2. And he's still, you know, he looks good. He looks like he belongs. He doesn't look like he looks like a major league wrestler, right? This match, I'm watching this guy, and he is just starting to put it all together. The little things, the things between the moves that a lot of young pro wrestlers, and even some veterans don't necessarily ever get a grasp of. He's starting to understand the nuance, the little things between the moves, how to sell and when to sell. There was a great spot where he was doing this Terry Funk wobbly leg selling, and he ate a boot to the face from Hayata, right? Then a couple minutes later, they look like they're going to repeat the same spot, and he's doing the same wobbly foot selling. And Hayata comes off the ropes, but this time he deked him. It was like to trip him. And then so they playing off the spot that we saw a couple minutes earlier. And his facial expressions and his mannerisms, this guy has just gotten, he gets, before he was a functional worker who looked like he belonged. Now, this guy looks like he could be a star on American television. That's in someday. I truly believe that. I am now buying all the Jack Morris stock. I think this guy's a future star somewhere. He is starting to put it all together. He's a good-looking guy, no pun intended with the gimmick. I think he has the right aesthetics for American TV. Okay, and you would think being a Western guy who's an English speaker, that's probably his goal. I'm sure he could have a nice career in Japan, but let's be realistic here. All right? I'm just seeing a guy who's putting it all together. And I'm seeing a guy who, to me, was the most charismatic person on what was a great show. He was the most charismatic person on this show. And his bell-to-bell work in this 6-man tag, just, it jumped off the fucking screen. I am all in on Jack Morris.
All right, really there it is.
There's something
We're in.
I'm telling you, there's something there. You know, I could see this guy going to WWE tomorrow and being able to hang or going, you know, there's something there. How old? Let me see how old this guy is.
I think he's 30.
Gotta be about
I want to
30.
say he's 30. I want to say he's 30 on the dot, if I remember correctly.
He's 30, and this is when a lot of guys start putting it together, you know, and I think working in Noah with all these
I was going to say, working with a lot of good wrestlers full-time is weird. How the best way to become a good wrestler is to work with a lot of other good wrestlers. Like if you're not that good, you work with good wrestlers and eventually you turn out good, or you can have 800 people that all suck in a warehouse and spend millions of dollars on it every year, and then nobody ever gets better. You can do that too. Either method works, you know, whatever method you want to do. But
whoever scouted and found this guy did a tremendous job. I mean, because no one knew who he was. And now I'm watching him on this show. I mean, if people are listening, go watch this match. And if you think I'm talking nonsense, I mean, he was so good in this match. And look, this isn't any kind of notebook match or anything. It was a really good match. It's a good, fun match. But he stood out so much in this match. He just knows what to do now in every little situation during a match. And a lot of guys never get that. You know, it's those little things between the moves that fill in the gaps that are so important sometimes. So anyway, the main event, now you can jump in. Wagner successfully defends against Jake Lee. Wagner's another guy. His charisma is his biggest strength. And he's over with the Noah fans. There's a crowd connection there. He has all of that. I just don't know if he feels like a world champion yet. And I think if he has a long enough reign and wins enough title matches, he could get there. I'm not opposed to this title reign, though. He got over last year. He's been an unsung guy.
He's earned it. He earned this title reign for sure.
No doubt.
But he's got to.
No doubt.
He does still feel like he's not quite there.
Feels like a mid-card guy with the world title.
Yeah.
But the fans like him. And I'm going to tell you what. 1,338
like
people
him.
in Korakuen.
They really like him.
1,338 people in Korakuen. That's a good number. This outdrew Yokohama. And it was very clear that they were afraid to put his world title match in Yokohama, which is why they put it in Korakuen. And what did he do? He outdrew Yokohama with this match. So they like him. And he's over. And he's over, in the sense that this match sold tickets, and he's also over in the buildings. He has a lot of charisma. So I don't know. Maybe they should see this through and just keep the fucking title on him. Because this show, Noah felt alive again. What do we always say when we talk about Noah? How dry and dead and desolate it feels. This show felt so alive. The crowd was amped the whole time. I know you only saw the main, but they were into Wagner in the main event, and they were behind him to beat Lee. Lee had his supporters too. But I don't know, man. I kind of felt like he was a free agent, and maybe part of the negotiation was, hey, look, I'll re-sign if you give me a little GHC title run, right? A lot of guys are marks for that. Also, it raises your profile because for the rest of his career, he can say he's a former GHC champion. So there's some value in that. People used to pay for that.
Yeah,
Otto Wands.
Yep.
It's like, but now that he has the title, and now that I see how over he is and how there's kind of something building with him, and the rest of the lay of the land here, where else you gonna turn? Fuck it, keep the title on him. I don't know. What'd you think of all this?
I think it was fine for him to win this title. I didn't care that much. It's Jake Lee, you know what I mean? Like I don't really necessarily need Jake Lee to win any more titles. With that said, I thought Jake Lee was great in this match. He's one of those guys that every time you're about ready to say, fuck this guy, I'm done with him forever, he has a match like this, and you're like, maybe he is okay. Maybe this Jake Lee is okay. Now he's going to have he's going to have 10 more matches that I fucking hate, and his look is terrible. It still is terrible, no matter what, even a good match or not. The look is awful. But yeah, he's going to have 10 more matches that annoy the hell out of me. I'm going to say, God, this guy sucks. I hate him. And then he's going to have one like this. And I'm like, shit, actually, it's pretty good. But I thought this was a good match. I thought, like I said, I think Wagner has such good charisma and so much, aura about him that he's making it, he might be kind of making it work, but he's not quite there yet as the champion. But that's fine. Big matches like this, big wins like this go a long way in doing that. Because
that's right.
Because now, like, everybody went in this match assuming, okay, the Wagner thing is done. Lee's going to go and win them, and then we're going to just kind of go on with our right way, and Wagner will be back in the mid-card. Getting a win like this is kind of one of those, okay, maybe they are going to get behind this guy. Maybe this guy is going to be a long-term champion, and that's really cool. I like that idea because that's going to only help him. That's going to help add a different aura to him, and it's going to maybe make people start thinking that this guy is worthwhile and can, have a long reign with the title. So yeah, you need to have matches like this where, he does win that, even if people don't believe it. That you need a couple of those to kind of establish him, and I think they did a good job of doing that. So
I see signs he can get over the top and be a viable world champion.
And this may have been it. Maybe they just needed to see him one time beat a guy that they thought he was going to not beat and go, okay, all right, we can actually invest in this guy. Because maybe as a fan, you don't want to fully invest in this guy thinking, this is just kind of a charity title reign or whatever. But he gets a win like this, and it's like, okay, now we can invest in this. Now we can maybe get excited about this. I do wonder if we get, that going here a little bit with Wagner. So
they could have easily done this match in Yokohama and the tag title match in Korakuen. They didn't believe in this match for Yokohama. And then look what happened. They did the reverse. Yokohama didn't even do 1,000 fans.
Bomb,
the title match. Yeah, the title match does like over 1,300. I think this entire scenario was a huge win for Wagner. The match drew. He looked great. He was over as fuck in the building. They put him over Jake Lee when no one thought they were going to. He's a big winner here. But it's Noah. The ultimate arm's length promotion. They can come out on the next Korakuen and beat him with fucking Hideki Suzuki or something.
Right. Yeah, you gotta be arm's length with Noah. You never know.
You just can't make sense of it. But this show had so much energy, and it was a great show from top to bottom. Like, it didn't have great matches. It was just good it was good matches top to bottom with great vibes, is what it was. And it was a hell of a fun watch. A much better watch than the All Japan show, which kind of dragged. Until the main event. So I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting dreary old Noah. But man, did they shock me.
Quickly, New Japan Pro Wrestling. I have no interest in this show whatsoever. I have no interest in New Japan right now, to be honest. I'm very down on New Japan. But Sakura Genesis,
Saturday.
Naito versus Yota Tsuji, like so much else going on this weekend. Like, there's no chance I'll watch it sometime this week, and
we're gonna have to watch. I mean, we'll watch it fucking Monday or Tuesday or something
at some point. But
I mean, Tsuji, I'm now convinced he's gonna be a guy. I'm there with him. He's obviously not gonna win this match. But and who knows if he was even supposed to be in the match, but he's there. And he won the New Japan Cup, and I think of the young crop, I'm without a question most confident in him. That's not even a hot take. I think everyone would agree with that. But I'm also confident that he's actually going to get there. The others, I have varying degrees of confidence or lack of confidence. And this is his second title match. I mean, he had already. This will be his second IWGP title match because he had one with Sonata when he came back. But again, everything is built around LIJ because there's nothing else going on in this fucking company.
Nothing else happening. So
Evil versus Shingo with Kanemaru as the ref. They shot the angle a couple days ago for that. Moxley's coming in to team with the Shooter against Jack Perry and Ren Narita. I'll be interested in that. I'll check. But it's fucking House of Torture. That's the problem. It's just everything has that House of Torture stink on it. Show versus Yo, I couldn't give a flying fuck about this. The build is just silly and stupid. And man, these two guys peaked when they were Lions. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it. Show had that one brief when he was a babyface and he was using like the whatever he called that finisher of his, but ever since the heel turn, he just mails it in. He doesn't give a shit. He's just collecting a check. And Yo is just a weirdo. I don't know. He doesn't connect with me at all. He's a fucking weird guy. I don't like his wrestling style. I don't like the way he presents himself. I don't like his look. There's just Yo is just very off-putting to me. I don't know. You could jump in anytime, my friend.
Dude, what do you want me to say? I mean, I don't
keep
care.
Going. I'll keep going till you jump in. How's that?
They're fucking. It's just this promotion is just boring.
It's hard.
Ice cold.
It's rough. Chase Owens and Kenta versus Bishamon. I think we all hope Bishamon just takes those titles back.
We're hoping for Bishamon to win the titles back. That's our hope, is that we can finally get back to Bishamon. Really?
Well, that's the state of New Japan right now. What do you fucking Killer Elite Squad ain't walking through that door.
They're not. They're not. I know, it's just funny that we're like, oh man, it'd be nice to get Bishamon back. They had the titles for how long did those fuckers have the titles for?
I mean,
a long time, right?
Do you like Chase Owens? Do you like Chase Owens? Do you like Chase Owens and Kenta?
No.
Then we're hoping Bishamon wins that. I mean, what the fuck? Kenta's got to defend that Defy title and hop on a plane, right?
Oh, that's right. He does.
He's got a couple days, to be fair.
Yeah,
but Defy matches tomorrow morning.
Yeah, he's got a little time.
Yeah. Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney defend the junior titles against Catch 2-2 and the Intergalactic Jet Setters in a little three-way action. A little menage a trois for the junior belt.
Kushita's back. That's good for him.
Yeah, the War Dog's just...
A lot of people thought Kevin Knight was gone too. Remember, because he tweeted something about something. But yeah,
Kevin Knight.
Yeah,
really. I didn't know he was.
There was something where people were like, what's going on with Kevin Knight?" Because he hadn't been there for a while. He did the Super Junior tag.
Oh no, you're right. Yeah, everybody thought he left.
Yeah, and then he's back. He's back. So.
But he did leave.
He kind of did. I don't know whatever. Yeah, sure. Because he did leave. Yeah, he kind of left and was like, "Yeah,
he definitely left."
Because I thought he tweeted something about like, "I'm done with New Japan and doing other bookings," and now he's just back. So.
Well, maybe he's just taking this as a freelancer. Kushida's not really full time either at this point.
Yeah.
So why are they even in this match now that we mentioned it? Like, why are they?
I don't know. Ask Gato, man. I don't know.
Callum Newman, Great Khan, and Jeff Cobb versus just 3 guys: Tuki Sonata and Yuya Uemura. So we're just filling out the card now.
You're just saying names now. You're just saying names.
Bushi and Hiromu versus 2 more War Dogs.
Yeah.
Finley and Gato. Despy and Taguchi versus Kosei Fujita and Zack Sabre Jr. Did you see Kosei Fujita versus Matt Riddle from MLW?
Did I see that match? No, was that on War Chamber? I did not watch War Chamber yet.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. Then they're doing the Frontier Zone shit again, giving people an opportunity. So Ayato Yoshida.
I like that Ayato Yoshida's on the Frontier when he's better than
he's like half the roster.
75% of the people you just got done naming. And it's like, all right, little boy, you can team with these fucking dorks that we're bringing in from wherever, whatever, and it's like, Ayato Yoshida is better than so many of these guys on this roster. Like,
look, it's rough. We'll see if it draws. I mean, they've been drawing okay, surprisingly. But look, the problem is, and we could all see the problem, this is going to get stale real soon with the very limited options they have at the top.
Yeah.
And then it's going to stop drawing, because how many times can you redo all of these LIJ rivalries over and over and over? The problem is, where else are you going to turn?
You got nothing else. Yeah.
Zack Sabre Jr. Okay. Then what? So, we got to shoot some angles and split up some units and give Tsuji a fucking unit or something. And now's the time for him. Because it feels like he's on the cusp. Get him away from LIJ. But again, then it's still kind of like, I don't know. There's just no juice in this company. There's just no fucking juice. Which is why I say, if Nakajima does end up here now, I was diametrically opposed to that.
Yeah, maybe, honestly, maybe that's the best thing for all of us.
Yeah, because they need it bad. I mean,
they need something, man. I didn't even want to preview the show, and this is our preview. Like you were like, we got to do Secret Genesis, and I was like, fuck that. I'm not doing anything about.
Well, here's the other thing. You gotta fucking
New
watch
Japan.
it now.
I know. On Tuesday, on fucking Tuesday this week, I got to watch this stupid show. Maybe it'll be good.
Give them the treatment. Just skip to the fucking business end. You don't have to watch the whole fucking thing.
Nah.
I'll watch the whole thing.
Yeah, I think I'm done with the undercard for a while.
As long as one of us watches the whole thing, I'll give you a pass. You want a pass?
We'll see.
Hey, chat room, give him a pass. Give Rich a pass.
We'll see how the week goes. No. We'll see how the week goes.
He'll feel good about it.
I don't want to feel like Brian Alvarez here. It's all right. I'm not.
Jesus Christ, look at all the promotions we just reviewed. You think you're Brian Alvarez?
I guess not. I guess when you put it that way, yeah, I'm not.
You think he knows who Akitoshi Saito is?
No, I don't think he knows. No, probably not. I got some breaking news for you, Joe. You ready?
I love breaking news.
All right. The Game Changer Wrestling Indie Hall of Fame. Okay. This year we have Sabu going in, Steve Corino, Mercedes Martinez, Trent Acid, the Briscoes, and Kevin Hogan. We now have the 6th inductee.
Kevin Hogan,
who's a fan. He's like an East Coast wrestling fan. I don't know anything about Kevin Hogan, but 6th inductee, hot stuff, Eddie Gilbert.
How about that?
Look at that. So.
Well, good.
Take credit. Take credit, Joe. That's because of you.
I'm taking credit for that.
Yeah, why not?
No, I mean, I don't know how much I care about the Game Changer Independent Hall of Fame. What are the standards for this thing? What gets you in? I would assume that since Missy Hyatt's in town working the shows, that she'll have a big hand in accepting that. Eddie Gilbert, I'm not going to break down because I don't know what it takes to get in such a Hall of Fame. I don't know what but was he really a big indie guy? I mean, not when you think about his career. I mean, towards the end, he worked, obviously he had the 6-month run booking Eastern Championship Wrestling. And then he did some Coraluzzo shows after that. And he was really more of a dying days territory guy than an indie guy, I would say.
Yeah, because I don't know how you define the indies, but I kind of define the indies as beginning. Like, there's this weird 90s period. I don't know what you call the 90s indie period, because there's obviously like the 2000 on indies where it's like, all right, ECW is on death's door, WCW is about to die. There's this groundswell of guys that have kind of emerged now, and now you have like the Super 8 tournament, and eventually when Ring of Honor comes. Now that's like, to me, like the true indie era. But you have this weird, like, what do you call 1993 to 1999?
Well, there were indies then, but again,
you know what I mean? Like, they're kind of weird in that sense. And regardless, Eddie Gilbert wasn't really involved in any of those. He was involved.
I don't think of him as an indie guy. I'm not shitting on this thing.
No, he was in Smokey and the NWA, and that's kind of it. Very briefly in those. And like, do you count, USWA as an indie at that time, or is that a dying territory? That's a dying territory,
I don't.
Right?
Memphis. That was the dying days of the Memphis territory.
I would agree.
Look, his career path is pretty easy. He breaks in Memphis. He works like Central States and some other territories while he's predominantly working in Memphis. Then he has the run with the WWF before he breaks his neck in the car accident, right? And then he bounces back and forth to Memphis a million times in his career, in between runs with Mid-South and then WCW, and then the 6-month run in ECW. He didn't even have a run in Smoky Mountain. He worked one taping and then disappeared and never called Jim Cornette back. So that's not even a run.
Right.
Because he worked the one taping with Unabomb, and he was going to be Unabomb's manager. But then he got the call from Puerto Rico to be the booker. So he just skipped town and went to Puerto Rico to book Puerto Rico and never told Cornette he was leaving. So he only worked the one taping with Unabomb, and then Cornette replaced him with Al Snow. And then Al Snow and Unabomb were in act for like a year and a half, 2 years. So Al Snow got the spot because Eddie Gilbert skipped town. So that wasn't even a run. Like, he didn't have a run with Smokey. And I don't consider that an indie anyway. That would be one of the last territories that ever existed. So from that standpoint, you have Eastern Championship Wrestling, which was 1,000,000% an indie. And then, a lot of shots he did, like for Cora Luzo and, Global. We forgot the Global run, but again, that was like a territory attempt.
It's what I'm saying. There's like, and that's why that early 90s, that mid 90s, early 90s, there's a lot of like dying territories more so than indies. And there's people hanging on to the final days of the territory days. Now
we had the tri-state stuff, which was important.
Yeah.
That I forgot about that. So you do have the tri-state stuff in Philly.
That's definitively indie for sure.
And the Terry Funk feud across a number of indies, which was the top drawing indie feud during that era. 91, 92, 93. Terry Funk, Eddie Gilbert popped houses in a number of different indies. So from that standpoint, that beefs up the resume a little. But again, it's a nice honor. I'm not going to sit here and nitpick it and rip it apart, these candidates for the Game Changer Wrestling Indie Hall of Fame. It's a nice thing to do. Missy Hyatt will get up there and give a nice speech, and they'll put his fucking name somewhere. I don't know. So, but do I think of him as like a classic indie guy? No, I do not. The Funk stuff was very important. The Cactus Jack matches in Philly for Tri-State, very important indie matches from that standpoint.
Yeah, maybe a building block of what became the indies.
Absolutely.
If you want to say that.
From that standpoint, yes. But do I think of him as maybe a building block to the modern indies? Yeah, absolutely. And who knows what would have happened if he would have lived. It's because he had burned his bridge in a lot of places. I think eventually him and Heyman reconcile, and I think he probably would have been part of peak ECW at some point. That's just my gut. Because he did try to get back in even before he died a couple of times. He made that pitch to Todd Gordon. He said, hey, look, after Douglas threw down the title and Cora Luzo was holding another tournament, the one that Candido eventually won, Gilbert was in that tournament, and he called Gordon and he pitched the idea. He's like, look, I could talk Cora Luzo into me winning. I'll throw down the title again. And,
yeah.
And Gordon was like, Eddie, I'm not interested. He's like, we can't show the footage on TV, number one. So it's kind of useless.
Let's try to get Joe back here real. real quick. It looks like we lost him. Let's see. if I can get Joe back on
known.
here. Hey, Joe, are you back? We did lose you for a sec, so repeat whatever you just said 15 seconds prior. I got you back real quick, but
all right. So I think I left off on
Gordon,
him
right where he told Todd
Gordon
Gordon
to throw down the title.
Yeah, and Todd said we can't show it on TV. Right at that point.
Right. But I think that shows that Eddie was willing to come back to ECW because he tried to get back in. So to me, it would have been a matter of time before the bad blood would have subsided, and him and Heyman would have, who were best friends, they would have eventually had a conversation and worked it out. And I think they would have come back in. If for no other reason, Heyman would have known that was best for business to bring Eddie Gilbert back to ECW. That would have been huge. And Gilbert didn't have a lot of other places to turn. So I think eventually they would have reconciled. But Eddie Gilbert died without ever having another conversation with Paul Heyman.
Right.
After he felt that Heyman politicked him out of that job. So, that's sad. But anyway, that's a little Eddie Gilbert diversion. If you want more, go listen to the fucking
there you go.
4 hours I did on Gilbert on Jovember. So
Jovember 23, the life, career, and death of Eddie Gilbert. So
which Missy Hyatt has a copy of and never got back to me, so she probably hated it.
Right, said, can I listen to this? We sent her a copy and she hasn't gotten back to us.
Never heard back, so she probably thinks it was fucking terrible. But I nervously open my email every day waiting for her to bury me. But I don't know. Maybe she just thought it was mediocre and doesn't have anything to say. Who knows?
Either way.
Look, she lived it. If she thinks it stinks, that's fine by me. Because she was there and I wasn't.
Yeah,
so.
She was on the ground floor of a lot of that going on. So
yeah.
There you go. That I believe is gonna do it for us. Oh yeah, MJF tweeted. Everyone's like, oh, what does this mean? Is he going to WWE? I don't know. He tweeted.
I know. The answer is no. He is not going to WWE.
No, Joe, he has to be going to. Him and Ricky Starks are going to WWE. I'm convinced of it. Every time
Until
Ricky
they
Starks,
do, and then you get to say you're right.
Right. I am going to tell you, as I've been doing for the last 3 years, that every time Ricky Starks is on television, and every time Ricky Starks maybe loses on television, that's it for him. He's wrapping up, and he's going to go to WWE where he will be happier. And I'm going to continue to predict that until it happens, and I'm going to do the same for MJF as well.
And you're going to victory lap both when they inevitably end up there.
Yeah, exactly. Say, I told you, Joe. I told you.
Pro wrestlers always end up in the other place eventually, but you'll victory lap it anyway. That's what you're going to do.
Yeah. I told you these men were going to leave. Did I start telling you in 2020? Yes. But now I'm right in 2026 or whatever. So there you go. And I think that's it for us. So you are going to get a lot of us throughout this weekend. So we are going to sign off now. Voicesofwrestling.com for previews, reviews, columns. A ton of stuff about WrestleMania Weekend is up there right now. Previews for a lot of the major shows, reviews for a lot of the major shows, and FlagshipPatreon.com. You are going to want to be subscribed this weekend because we are going to lock in on WrestleMania Weekend and cover it better than anybody else is going to cover it. A guarantee of 5 shows. Guaranteed. You're going to get a Thursday afternoon show with Joe. You're going to get a Thursday night show with Joe and me. You're going to get a Friday night show, Supercard of Honor Instant Reaction, a Saturday Instant Reaction for WrestleMania, a Sunday Instant Reaction for WrestleMania, and possibly other shows throughout the weekend as well. So it's going to be a crazy, crazy weekend, and we'll have it covered from every end here at FlagshipPatreon.com and the Flagship Podcast. So that is it for us. That is Joe. I am Rich. We will talk to you again next time. Take care. Bye.
Hey kids, do you like wrestling? Well, we like wrestling too. We are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Myself and Chris Novembrino kind of doing a lazy river of wrestling criticism, going through the news and whatever happened in stateside television wrestling. And also, you know what? Sometimes we just like to watch old stuff and talk about that too. Love for you to give us a listen. If you haven't already, we are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.